Hello, friends, and welcome to the Good Stories podcast. We are back with a two-parter today. So this is the second half of the Neverending story. My name is Jody. I am here with Steven. And brother, it feels like it's been a little while. Listeners might not know, but just in how we've recorded, it's been a few weeks, couple weeks, since we did part one. So how have you been?
I'm good. Although you're right, it does kind of throw off the rhythm a little bit. We were like clockwork every week for a long time. And so now having a gap, I'm having to, find my footing again.
I know. Like, what did we say last time?
We'll probably repeat most of it, but that's okay.
I don't think so, because part two is wildly different from part one. So no worries there. But let's do the prompt, because I haven't done it in a while. If you haven't yet gone in, taken the moment to give us a rating, we would love it if you would do so wherever you listen to podcasts. One, it's encouraging to us just to see that people are listening. And two, it helps more people find our show. So if you would, take a moment to go do that. And then a reminder that we have a t-shirt giveaway. We're kind of midway, so we're going to announce winners towards the end of July. There's a link in the show notes. It's quick. You click into it, you submit it, and you're entered to win. And then, we'll announce winners at the end of July. I just said that. It's okay. I'll get a flow. And last thing before we get going, hello to any new listeners out there. And we want to call out our top 5 new locations this week, which are Mattoon, Illinois, Boston, Massachusetts, Kent, Washington, Upper Marlboro, Maryland, and Toledo, Washington. The Washington ones I know.
I do know those. And you lived in Boston.
Lived in Boston and Toledo. Didn't we play sports there in high school?
Yeah. They weren't directly in our conference, I don't think, but they would show up at tournaments and things.
Yeah. So hello to you all out there. We're glad you're here. But as I mentioned before, this is part 2 of the Neverending story. So you can check out part 1, but if you've seen the movie, you're kind of caught up. Part 1 pretty much holds true to the movie. There are exceptions, and the book has some richer details, but the movie, for the most part, through the first half, kind of sticks with the story. But part 2 turns. And if you didn't know there's a part 2, there is. We are literally 13 chapters in out of 26 that stops smack dab in the middle at the end of the movie. But in short, in this part 2, our sad, short, chubby young friend Bastian, he gets everything he could possibly want. And it turns out that there's a cost. So here we go. Time for a story.
In the first part of the Neverending story, Bastian Balthazar Bucks steals a magical book and reads about a grave peril facing the land of Fantastica. As he follows the quest of the hero Atreyu, he learns that he is a part of the story and must save the land of Fantastica by giving the childlike empress a new name. Upon naming her Moonchild, he is drawn into the land of Fantastica and given a new task. By making wishes, he is to bring Fantastica back to life and add stories to the land, making it deeper and richer than ever before. As his wishes come to life, it becomes apparent that Bastian is losing a piece of himself with every choice. As the Neverending story continues, we will watch to see whether his wishes make Fantastica better or worse, and whether he is able to find his way home before losing himself completely.
Very good. So last time we did an age recommendation. I think you said 10 and up-ish. Spoiler alert, we're going to go through it, and I'm excited to talk through this one. So definitely stay and listen. And then I hope you do pick it up, because there are wonderful, beautiful things, especially in part 2 of this book, that we could not possibly touch on all of them. He goes through lands, and it's a land of wishes suddenly. It's very exciting.
Yeah, I agree. The reason I wanted to do Neverending Story to begin with was because I was so impressed by the second half. It has really moved me. It has really made me think, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what you think about it and to talk through it together.
So it starts, Moonchild, I'm coming. Bastian repeated in the darkness. And he kind of wakes up in the dark, but it feels different. It's dark. It's beautiful. And he's calling to her, Moonchild. He just gave the childlike empress a name. And it's dark. Nobody there for a little bit.
Total tangent. Every time I see Moonchild, I can't help but think a little bit about Moon Unit. Frank Zappa's child. Just saying.
Garfield uses that name too. Moon Unit.
But Moonchild is there with Bastian, and they are talking about what's to be done. And the instructions she gives are pretty clear. Fantastica will be born again from your wishes, my Bastian. Through me, they will become reality.
So we talked a little bit about her last time. And it's not that exactly that you learn more about her, you think more about her. She's going to make Fantastica new by his wishes. He wonders if he's hovering somewhere. And in the first part, there was the nothing, right? It was the thing consuming Fantastica, and he had to call out that name. Moonchild is what he named her. Here there's nothing, but it's not capitalized anymore. It's just void. And he asks her, why is it dark? And she says, it's always dark at the beginning. And it's interesting because they also use nowhere. There's nothing, but it's not big, bad nothing anymore. It's not consuming. It's like a blank slate, and they are nowhere. But she hands him a gift.
The gift is essentially a seed. It's a little grain of dust. And she says it's the last remaining thing from Fantastica. So this land he had been reading about and loved and was trying to save, this is it. It's there in this grain. And she tells him that through his wishes, it will be again. But it'll be better. It'll be more. His wishes, his stories will add to it. And it's going to be amazing.
She says, you know they call me the commander of wishes. What will you wish? And his mind is blank. I mean, can you imagine just somebody being like, make a wish, anything, it's going to happen. That's a lot of pressure. But kind of without even thinking of it, he says, I'd awfully like to see you again, Moonchild. And she laughs happily. And he doesn't get the joke. She's like, you just made your first wish. And that's when that seed starts to glow. And he can see the childlike empress.
And she congratulates him. Well done, my Bastian, he heard her say. You see how easy it is for you. And you have this, again, growth. This is plants and all sorts of things coming up. And the way he describes it is beautiful. He uses words like velvety darkness, which is great. I mean, it's fantastic. And as this forest, as this incredible, breathtaking, lush, tropical paradise is sprouting, she tells him, you must give all this a name. Naming is very, very important. It is the role that he is given. Fortunately, we learned in the first half that he is tops at this.
He names it Perilyn the Night Forest. I don't think he even pauses. Perilyn the Night Forest, and it grows around him. And come on, it's a human. They needed a human to come name things. It is an Adam story. It is a creation story. Out of the void, this beautiful forest develops purely from his thought and from the naming of it. And it's interesting that the name comes with it. It doesn't fully develop and kick off until after he names it. It's part of what it is.
Yeah, part of the right order of things is for it to have received a name. And now there is this forest, there is this light, it has a name, and he can now see Moonchild, and the conversation continues. And she chastises him a little bit and says, why did you keep me waiting for so long? Why did you make me go to the old man of the wandering mountain? And Bastian responds, he was afraid. He was afraid and ashamed that she would see him and not like what she saw. He was worried that he was going to let her down.
He thinks that this perfect creature would be disappointed in him. He's this chubby little pale kid. He's embarrassed by who he is, by what he looks like. And he sees himself reflected in her eyes initially, just as he is. And she smiles and is all kindness. And yet, this place is crafted around his wishes. And he is transformed almost into this oriental prince. I picture like Aladdin.
Very much. In the golden mirror of her eyes, he saw, small at first, as though far in the distance, a reflection which looked little by little, grew larger and larger and more distinct. It was a boy, about of his own age, but this boy was slender and wonderfully handsome. His bearing was proud and erect, his face was noble, manly, and lean. He looked like a young prince from the Orient. His turban was of blue silk, so was the silver-embroidered tunic which reached down to his knees. His high boots, made of the softest red leather, were turned up at the toes, and he was wearing a silver glittering mantle which hung down to the ground. But most beautiful of all were the boy's hands, which, though delicately shaped, gave an impression of unusual strength.
That is what I mean by the extensive details provided in this, and they are lush and wonderful. Even when they're not positive ones, they're very rich in how it's described. This guy is a storyteller, and I think this second half is very much along those lines where his wishes, his stories include all these wonderful details. That's just his clothes and his appearance. But then he realizes that's me. It becomes him. He is now that new thing that he wished for. And he's delighted, but then Moonchild is gone.
Gone. She didn't say goodbye. She didn't ask anything. She's just gone. And it's at this point that a familiar artifact shows up. It's at this point that he receives the Arin. She has left it there for him.
It was Arin the gem, the childlike empress's amulet, which made its bearer her representative. So she disappears, but leaves her symbol with him.
And he is looking at this, and we've just spent the first half of the book with this symbol, with this gem. And it's one of the weird things about doing a 2-part episode like this is it's hard for me to express right now just how emotionally invested we are after part 1. I mean, if you do it all at one go, that emotion is just there naturally. But here, where this is a whole separate episode we're still carrying that emotional investment. We have watched the Arin. Atreyu carried it through this incredible journey, and now Bastian is holding it. And it's a very exciting moment. And like many exciting things, though, there's a new discovery with the Arin. He turns it over, and he sees an inscription. 4 words. It says, "Do what you wish."
Says there had been no mention of such an inscription in the Neverending story when he was reading it. Could it be that Atreyu hadn't noticed it? He says, but that didn't matter now. What mattered was that the words gave him, Bastian, permission, ordered him, in fact, to do whatever he pleased. So he approaches the forest, this forest that has grown outside of this one little seed and has become immense and extensive, and he goes exploring.
Yeah. And here at the beginning, too, he is still really enjoying just being handsome. I mean, he's beautiful, and that was never what he was before. And there's a line here that when I read this the first time kind of caught me up. It says, "For this there was a reason which Bastian was not to discover until much later. The beauty that had been bestowed on him made him forget, little by little, that he had ever been fat and bow-legged." So again, he's loving the fact that he's handsome, that this is what he is now. His wish came true. But as part of the wish, he's forgetting that he was ever anything different.
Yeah, and you're clued into it here, kind of at the beginning of this next segment. So the Arin remembers those 2 snakes eating each other's tails. There's a black one and a white one. And so you're going to find this whole thing is very cyclical. But he says even if he had known what was happening, that he was going to lose a memory, he wouldn't have mind losing that one. He loves being handsome.
This is great.
It's so good. As it happened, he didn't even realize that he had forgotten anything. This doesn't strike him at all. He is just delighted.
And it is fascinating to think of, what would you do? I mean, this isn't 3 wishes. This is as many wishes as he wants.
He did ask about that. How many do I get? She's like, as many as you want.
So what would you wish for? What would the first thing be? He wished to be handsome. That was his first wish. That's a very natural thing, I think, that many people would wish for first. What's the second thing many people would wish for? Well, what he wishes for next is to be strong. It's not enough to be handsome. He wants to be strong, stronger than anyone. And in this land, with the Arin, his wishes come true.
So with the handsome thing, it kind of just happened. Moonchild kind of just made that happen for him, the Arin, that power there. But he does wish, and his wishes kind of develop over time as he progresses, because he's climbing through this forest, and that's where he wants to be strong. And so it's his experiences that fulfill these wishes, although it does not take long.
No, it does not take long. It also doesn't take long for this forest to grow like mad. Huge trees, credible blossoms. He's up at the top, looking around and loving every moment of it. It says, for a long time, Bastian stood there drinking in the sight. This was his domain. He had created it. He was the Lord of Perilyn. And once again, he shouted for joy.
Do you know what your first wish would be? I haven't super thought this through, but offhand. He had to make it offhand.
Oh, it's so silly. But the first wish that came to mind was good vision.
Oh, that's not silly. That'd be good.
I've always been mostly blind in my left eye, and my right eye's okay, but like I've never had great vision, and so that was just the first thing that came to mind.
I would love to not be tired. I remember being a kid. This will drive Mom crazy. I remember her taking mini naps when I was a kid. I'm like, why would you do that? Why would you even do that? You're wasting time in your day. And now I'm like, man, I'm tired.
Now we understand.
Now I kind of get it. So
there's a great C.S. Lewis line, if you heard this one. Later in life, somebody asked him, Mr. Lewis, do you take naps? He says, no, I don't take naps. Mind you, sometimes a nap takes me.
Yeah. That's how it happens. I do set an alarm because I only got about 8 to 12 minutes to waste, people. No more than that. Cannot afford more. Anyways, the next chapter is called The Desert of Colors. I love this. I love everything about this. And we mentioned last time when we found this was a book. We watched the movie first. We found this was a book. I read it and I thought, what just happened? I don't really know now how I could have thought that. I loved part 2 going through this time. I don't know what I was thinking when I read it. Probably in high school or college. I don't know.
I know what I was thinking, but I'll explain it later. Because
Okay.
I don't want to give away it all right now. Because I can tell you when I thought this is weird and didn't think I liked it.
Well, Bastian sleeps, and he sleeps well because he's been climbing around in the jungle. He's becoming strong. Now he's the strongest in the world. But then he kind of gets tired of the night, the dark. Apparently this forest is only dark.
It's the night forest.
Yeah.
Perilyn, the night forest, must always be dark.
And so as soon as he thinks, man, this is a long night, suddenly there's streaks of dawn.
He also has another wish in here, and not all these are fully verbalized, but I think this one is. The author mentions it, although I'm not sure Bastian really recognized it. He wants to be tough. It's not just enough to be handsome and strong. He wants to be able to endure hardship. Remember, he's just watched Atreyu do this incredible epic quest, and he wants to be like that. He wants to be like him. And so he's now handsome, he's now strong, and now he wants to be tough and inured to hardship. But that means he's got to find something hardship and something to be tough against. And so as he wakes up, the light comes in, and everything starts to crumble.
The night forest shatters around him almost into dust, and it becomes this extensive desert of colors. The colors are so wonderful and described so well where it's just this cascade of different colors.
I have the paragraph here. I'm going to have to stop reading so much because it's all beautiful, but Bastian had climbed a dune of purplish red sand, and all around him he saw nothing but hill after hill of every imaginable color. Each hill revealed a shade or tint that recurred in no other. The nearest was cobalt blue, another was saffron yellow, then came crimson red, then indigo, apple green, sky blue, orange, peach, mauve, turquoise, blue, lilac, moss green, ruby red, burnt umber, Indian yellow, vermilion, lapis lazuli, and so on from horizon to horizon. And between the hills, separating color from color, flowed streams of gold and silver sand. This, said Bastian aloud, is Goab, the desert of colors. And again, he has now named it.
He says if he doesn't get out of it soon, though, he would die of hunger and thirst. He took hold of the childlike empress's emblem in the hope that it would guide him, and then staunchly started on his way. This is his proving ground for toughness.
He eventually worries that nobody's going to know if he dies in the desert, so he uses these different colors to write his initials in the sand and massive letters on a dune. That's totally something that I think a lot of us would do.
Well, and his is complicated because he read this story from the outside first. And so he's leaving this mark. It says, no reader of the Neverending story could fail to see his message. So whatever happened to him now, someone would know where he had been. But it says that he ignores the torment of thirst. His will had become as hard as steel. Neither fatigue nor hardship could bend it. So already he too is being changed by these wishes, by these places that are a creation of his, but bigger and broader and more beautiful than came from his own mind.
Mm-hmm. And so now he is showing his toughness, right? This wish is coming to fruition, but it evolves. And what he wants now is really true courage. It's not just enough to be handsome and strong and tough. He wants to be courageous. And he says how grand it would be to meet some dangerous creature. Maybe not as hideous as Igramol, which from last time we remember was pretty hideous.
The horrible spider thing.
But much more dangerous. A beautiful but very, very dangerous creature. The most dangerous creature in all of Fantastica. Well, he keeps wishing, and it keeps happening.
One of the lessons of this book is be careful what you wish for.
Indeed.
Especially when they come true. But he hears in the distance something, and he sees it coming toward him in the shimmering desert air. I love the descriptions. But Bastian was stricken with terror, but he takes hold of the Orin and feels all the courage he had wished for streaming into his heart. Then again he hears a deep roar that made the ground tremble, but this time it was near him. He looks up. A huge lion was standing on the fiery red dune. The sun was directly behind him and made his great mane look like a wreath of fire. This lion was not a tawny color like other lions, but as fiery red as the dune on which he was standing.
And this is the first of these creations that you don't hear Bastian give the name. It states its own name. I, said the huge beast, am Grograman, Lord of the Desert of Colors. I am also known as the Many-Colored Death. Apparently this lion burns up everything around it. No living creature, no living being can approach it because he is just so fiery, so filled with heat that they are all destroyed. But Bastian is protected by the Orin. He's also ridiculously handsome, tough, courageous, and strong.
All that and a bag of chips.
And so the Many-Colored Death is very excited to finally meet Bastian, somebody who can endure his presence.
Well, Bastian stares him down like he would a cat, like he was a small kitty. I think it's very funny. But it works. And then this lion, this horrible monster that would consume anything living, bows down to it. We learn about this lion, the Many-Colored Death. He becomes the color of the sand he's on. And it describes how his mane and color, he blends in with wherever he's at. But he bows to Bastian and calls him master. He gives him a ride. How amazing is that?
It's awesome. This scene is incredible. He's just such a gorgeous animal. I mean, the color, the power, the strength, the heat, and yet with the power of the Orin, Bastian can endure him.
Yeah, Bastian asks him, can you get me out of this desert? The lion says, no, I cannot do it because he carries the desert with him. He's what creates it. He consumes anything living, but he can give him a ride to where there's food and water.
He takes him to his palace, and Bastian is the first living thing other than the Many-Colored Death to ever get to go there. Because again, nothing can withstand his heat. And Grograman stands outside, kind of sits there waiting, and all of a sudden a change comes on him. The day passes, dusk comes, and Bastian watches this creature turn from this splendid, colorful, many-colored death into stone. He's just stone sitting there. The lion's eyes were black and as dead as the rock. Grogamon had turned to stone. The lights flared for an instant and went out, leaving the cave in total darkness. Bastian wept bitterly. The stone lion was wet with his tears. In the end, the boy curled up between the great paws and fell asleep.
So clearly, this was not Bastian's idea. Okay, he thought of these things that would challenge his spirit and make him strong and amazing. And he wanted some monster to confront. And he did that. But this where it died. That was not his idea at all. And the thing already had a name. He didn't come in and name it like he had done the forest or even the desert. It already had a name. But after he falls asleep, he wakes up and the lion is back. Grogerman wakes up, comes back to life. The lion calls this place both his palace and his tomb. This is a daily, nightly occurrence.
I die with every nightfall, and every morning I wake up again.
But they have a lot of conversation, and the lion they help one another, I should say. The lion says, perhaps I can acquaint you with certain secrets, and perhaps you can clear up the riddle of my existence for me.
And this passage is so good. You, who bear the emblem of the childlike empress, can you tell me this? Why must I always die at nightfall? So that Perilyn, the night forest, can grow in the desert of colors, said Bastian. Perilyn, said the lion, what's that? Then Bastian told him about the miraculous jungle that consisted of living light. While Grogerman listened in fascinated amazement, Bastian described the diversity and beauty of the glimmering phosphorescent plants, their silent, irresistible growth, their dreamlike beauty and incredible size. His enthusiasm grew as he spoke, and Grogerman's eyes glowed more and more brightly. And what he realizes is that by existing, the many-colored death stops Perilyn the Night Forest from taking over all of Fantastica, from growing out of control. It is so just verdant and full of life that it would grow and grow and grow and choke everything out if it didn't come and die every night or every day with the many-colored death where the desert takes it over. And so again, we have this incredible cycle, this incredible balance between the two. And what this does is it gives the many-colored death's life and death meaning and purpose. It adds purpose to the story, which he didn't have before. And so now his nightly dying can be a sacrifice. It can be something with meaning. And so he's grateful to Bastian for this knowledge.
Yeah, the lion says, now I see that my dying gives life and my living death, and both are good. Now I understand the meaning of my existence. I thank you. Bastian did that with a story, and that was why they needed a human to come give a name, but also to create stories, create things by their wishes. And he just gives this creature an identity, a reason for the role that it has. It's actually very wonderful. So the lion makes a gift. He gives Bastian a gift, and this is so cool.
It was a sword. It didn't look very impressive. The iron sheath was rusty, and the hilt might have belonged to a child's wooden sword. Can you give it a name? Grogerman asked. Bastian examined it carefully. Secunda, he said. He can always give it a name.
The blade consisted of pure light and glittered so brightly he could hardly bear to look at it. It was double-edged and weighed no more than a feather. But, like many gifts in fairyland, it's a gift, but it must be used properly, or it becomes... What's the opposite of a gift?
A curse.
A curse. Nothing in all Fantastica can resist it, neither rock nor steel. But you must not use force. Whatever may threaten you, you may wield it only if it leaps into your hand of its own accord, as it did now. It will guide your hand, and by its own power will do what needs to be done. But if your will makes you draw it from its sheath, you will bring great misfortune on yourself and on Fantastica. Never forget that. Bastian promises, I will never forget that. I think that word will is important to call out even now. But if your will makes you draw it from its sheath, he would have to command it through his own choosing.
Yeah.
That's important. His will. Because on the horn itself, it says, do what you wish. But here they talk about will. Because the lion said he might be able to help Bastian with some secrets of Fantastica, too. And they discuss what Bastian's even there for. And Grogerman tells him, you have to find what your true will. That's where you're headed. That's why you're here.
The conversations between these two, I really, really enjoy. And I want to think about them a whole lot longer. I mean, I know we said we delayed a couple weeks, but it's not long enough for me to be able to fully understand this. Bastian pondered a long while. Then he said, it seems strange that we can't just wish what we please. Where do our wishes come from? What is a wish, anyway? Grogamon gave the boy a long, earnest look, but made no answer. Some days later, they had another serious talk. Bastian had shown the lion the inscription on the reverse side of the gem. What do you suppose it means, he asked. Do what you wish. That must mean I can do anything I feel like. Don't you think so? All at once, Grogamon's face looked alarmingly grave, and his eyes glowed. No, he said in his deep, rumbling voice. It means that you must do what you really and truly want, and nothing is more difficult. What I really and truly want? What do you mean by that? It's your own deepest secret, and you yourself don't know it. How can I find out? By going the way of your wishes from one to another, from first to last. It'll take you to what you really and truly want. That doesn't sound so hard, said Bastian. It is the most dangerous of all journeys. Why? Bastian asked. I'm not afraid. That isn't it, Grogomon rumbled. It requires the greatest honesty and vigilance, because there's no other journey on which it's so easy to lose yourself forever. Do you mean because our wishes aren't always good? The lion lashed the sand he was lying on with his tail. His ears lay flat. He screwed up his nose, and his eyes flashed fire. Involuntarily, Bastian ducked when Grogamon's voice once again made the earth tremble. What do you know about wishes? How would you know what's good and what isn't? Well, that makes you think.
And it goes back to the childlike empress. It's stipulated about her from the very beginning of this whole book that she does not judge between good or bad. She doesn't call some creatures good, some creatures bad, good or evil. That's not her role. Her power is different than that. And here the lion has some understanding of who's Bastian to even know.
Yeah,
but
you think you are.
He still respects Bastian, though. He calls him master and is a servant to him. But I like this one as well. He spends more time with the lion here, kind of as almost a backstory to the rest of his travels here, so that we learn something about what's happening. But Bastian asks him, is it true that you've always been here? Because Gorgomon already had a name. That sword was already there. Bastian came and named the sword specifically, but it had already been there. And the answer is so good. The lion replied calmly, Master, didn't you know that Fantastica is the land of stories? A story can be new and yet tell about olden times. The past comes into existence with the story. In essence, beginning at the moment when you named it, it has existed forever. That is so complex to me and amazing, this idea of stories about times before, and once they're named, they've always been. I don't really know where to go with it, but it kind of gives me chills.
It's making me think about On Fairy Stories again.
Mm-hmm.
Last week we said that this book seems to be a novel representation of, I think, a lot of the things Tolkien was saying, and I'm thinking about the soup of story, the stew, right, that everything kind of works it in. And then other people bring out, they name parts of it, they display it in a new way, but that doesn't make it new. I mean, the stew is old. And yeah, really interesting.
After a while, Bastian's been here what feels like a long time, although time is distorted in this place, certainly. But he asks, couldn't I stay with you forever? And the lion says, no, you must live your story. You cannot remain here. And Bastian asks, how can I leave? The desert is everywhere. How do you get out of it? And the lion says, you must go to the temple of 1,000 doors. I love that. I love stories with doors. I can actually think of several examples, just doors, because there's only one for you, and you don't get to know what's behind the other ones. Somehow this lion knows the story of this place, though, this temple of 1,000 doors. But for Bastian to find it, he has to wish for it. It's not enough for him to just think, oh, it's probably time for me to move on. He has to actually want it.
And he does. He does start to really want it. And at some point he realizes that it's time to go. And he sees a cleft open, and he sees the entrance to the temple of 1,000 doors. And he bids goodbye to his friend. Goodbye, Grogomon, and thanks for everything, he said softly. I'll come again. I promise I'll come again. Bastian didn't know that he would not keep his promise. Much later, someone would come in his name and keep it for him. But that's another story, and shall be told another time. Just like in the first half of the book, there are all these references, these oblique allusions to another story that will be told another time.
So the temple shows up because of a wish. He doesn't just wish for the temple. It has to grow out of a desire inside of him. And the desire is actually a wish to be alone no longer, is how it's phrased. Even with this line, he doesn't really have companionship, and he dies every night. The lion dies every night and then comes back again. And so it's when he wants company that this door opens up, this door of light, and he can enter in. And the temple is so interesting. Every door, there's always different options. And he can't really tell, like, what is going to lead to something else. You can't get out until you have another wish. It almost doesn't know where to put you, where to let you out until you have a clear wish. So he wanders around for a long time until he realizes that he's not just looking for company in general, he's looking for specific company, Atreyu.
Because who wouldn't want to meet Atreyu?
Absolutely.
I mean, because Falcor will be there too, wherever Atreyu is. And so he starts trying to guess off of the doors, because it's not like the door just says Atreyu's room.
Right.
There's a picture, there's a color, there's a motif.
A texture, all kind of lighting and shapes and different things inside of it. So he kind of wends his way thinking of where he might go, but eventually he pops out in a forest. Can we talk about doors a little bit first?
Yes, please.
How many stories can you think of with doors?
Fantastes, obviously, is the first one that comes to mind.
I had a different George MacDonald in my mind, but absolutely. This book in many ways makes me think of Fantastes.
So many ways. Lilith, was that the other one you were thinking?
The Princess and the Goblin.
Oh, yes. Yes. It
When
was
she
the
goes
grandmother.
up in the attic and looking for the right door, and she tries them all, but she can't get in. And they're not doors, but it's the wood between the worlds. In Narnia and Magician's Nephew. Not specifically doors, but again, where there's something behind it. There's something in there, and you can't go into all of them, but this is the one he goes through. So interesting to wonder what would have happened if he'd picked a different one. Something else, but that's a different story.
It will be told another time.
Yes.
One other wonderful door scene, the end of Monsters, Inc.
Oh, fantastic.
The doors in Monsters, Inc., so good.
I've always thought that would be a really good roller coaster.
I think so, too.
There's other ones, but that's enough.
Eventually, he picks, and he's hoping that Atreyu will be on the other side, but Atreyu is not on the other side. He basically steps out into a forest, but he's no longer alone as he starts meeting people, and he meets some very interesting people. Before he goes up to them, though, remember, he is now handsome and brave and strong and tough and courageous. He's the best. He decides he's going to hide the Auryn. He puts it under his shirt because he wants to see how these people will interact with just him, not necessarily him as the representative or the messenger of the childlike empress.
He meets knights on their way to a tournament. How wonderful is this? This is this testing of strength and ability, and it's these knights on their way, and they have a lovely princess with them, and Hero Heinrich.
I kind of love Hero Heinrich.
It's in his name.
Hero Heinrich loves Princess Oldemar, the daughter of King Luna. He is a hero, as you said, it's in his name. There are others, though, around this campfire, but it's kind of like the Howling Forest at the very beginning of the book. They're not all together. They kind of meet up here, and there's two groups. There's Hero Heinrich and the princess, and then there's the three other warriors, Hikrion, Hisbold, and Hidorn. In my notes, I refer to them as a group as HHH.
Yeah, Triple H.
Mm-hmm. Each one of them has a skill. Hikrion is noted to be the most powerful swordsman anywhere. Hisbold is supposed to be the quickest and nimblest anywhere. And Hidorn has the most endurance anywhere. They each have a skill set, but Hero Heinrich has it all.
He's a double H all on his own. So, like most books, there's a lot of names, and you don't really need to remember the important ones come back around. I feel like I say that a lot. But they're just great. And the H's, they remind me of the names maybe in, think Beowulf. But the tournament has a reason, a purpose. They are being called to seek the savior, the human that came into Fantastica. They're going to take the 3 top warriors, and they're going with Atreyu to find the human. Bastian does not say who he is. He travels along with them, and Hero Heinrich is a little insulting to him, so he figures he'll teach him a lesson.
That's right. Well, Hero Heinrich, it's very important to Heinrich that he is the best, that he is the greatest, because this woman he is head over heels in love with will only accept the greatest anywhere. So if he's not the greatest, he's going to lose the love of his life. So it's very important that he's the best.
She has vowed to only marry the greatest knight of all time. So, the greatest of all heroes, excuse me.
There's one other character we meet in this group who I deeply love. Yika. Yikka. Yika. This is a mule.
An aged she-mule. And Bastian gets to ride her. All the knights have their own horses, but they let him ride the pack mule. And she kind of lags behind, and he's urging her on, and she speaks. There are talking beasts in his Fantastica as well, in his version of Fantastica. She says, "Don't urge me on. I know who you are." When a person is only half an ass like me and not a complete one, she senses certain things. Even the horses had an inkling. You needn't say anything. I'd have been so glad to tell my children and grandchildren that I carried the Savior on my back and was first to welcome him. Unfortunately, mules don't get children. But he asks her name, and she's just so proud to be carrying him and to have identified him first. And they are friends, and she promises to keep his secret for him while he has his fun. He is still a little boy, after all. The place they go is amazing. It is made on the Lake of Tears. It's so interesting. It's called the Amarganth, and it was named before Bastian got there. This is another one where he gets to hear the story secondhand.
And Yika was named. Yika got to state her own name.
So somehow it all came from that seed, but it has flowered out and away from him. And the story of this place is wonderful. This is why I say you should read it. Listen to us. You'll get the point of the book, I hope. But the descriptions are great, where the lake itself is too toxic. It eats away at anything. So they move their ships around. It's made of this filigree and silver that's borne up out of the water. So if people from 2 different sides get married, they just move their ships around.
Yeah, I'm picturing Venice, but all in silver filigree. Just gorgeous. And don't go swimming in the water.
Right.
Because you'll dissolve in the water.
Yeah.
But the ships and the buildings and everything have to be silver because, as you said, the other stuff, wood or stone or these other things, would just dissolve in this lake of tears. Moru, the lake of tears. It is a stunningly beautiful vision.
And he describes the visitors in the city who've come to see the tournament. And when they gets up to the tournament grounds, at a distance, he can see Atreyu. Atreyu is there. They went through this whole almost annihilation of Fantastica, down to that little seed again. But now he's back out of Bastian's wishes. And the Triple H's are everything they said they would be, and they are winning the day, and they're going to take 3 companions with Atreyu on this trip. But then Hero Heinrich shows up and challenges all 3 at the same time.
And he beats each of them at their own game. So no matter how good they are, and they are amazing, he is better than all of them. He is truly Hero Heinrich.
Then the hero throws out the last challenge. Does anyone wish to oppose Hero Heinrich? And a little boy's voice was heard. Yes, I do. Bastian steps forward. He no longer has fear. He's beautiful. He's courageous. He's strong as anything to challenge Hero Heinrich.
Hero Heinrich tries to talk him out of it. They've eaten together. He doesn't want to embarrass him, but Bastian is ready to go. And so they decide that for their first encounter, they're not going to fight. They're going to do other things. So the first thing they're going to do is to see who can shoot an arrow higher. Heinrich launches the arrow. It's no contest. Bastian is so strong and so good. He shoots the arrow up, and he actually splits Heinrich's arrow as it's coming down.
It's like a Robin Hood move.
Yep, and it's still going up, so 0.1 to Bastian.
They do a competition with the foils, which are like rapier swords, yeah? Like the thin ones, and decks of cards. So they shuffle the cards and toss them in the air. And the hero gets, the ace of hearts, I think, on the end of his foil. Bastian gets the entire deck on his foil in order, even though the cards had been shuffled.
It's impressive.
That is impressive.
Hero Heinrich is starting to worry, and now it is time for them to engage. And so the two of them fight. And again, it's no contest. So Bastian is so strong, so good, so everything.
Oh, no. I love this. You got to back up.
Oh, did I miss one?
It's a challenge of strength.
Oh, yes.
And so Heinrich picks up a stone and he's straining so hard. So Bastian picks him up with the stone. And then Bastian says, next challenge, can I pick? Let's swim across the lake of tears. Remember, it's corrosive. Nothing can withstand this lake. That's where the hero Heinrich gets mad, pulls out his sword. But Bastian has Scandia. That's right? Secanda. Thank you. And the thing is ridiculous. It cuts like every bit of the hero's clothes and armor into like little pieces. It's shameful. Hero Heinrich is bereft. Bastian actually feels a little bad for him as he's being hauled away in honor towards Atreyu as the clear champion.
This was the point where I thought, this is weird. And I wasn't sure I liked it when I read this younger. I love it now. But when I was younger, remember, we're halfway through the story. I was so emotionally invested. Bastian was supposed to be the hero. And now all of a sudden, he's embarrassing Heinrich without effort and without really costing him anything. I mean, he could wish for whatever he wants. Heinrich worked for this. Heinrich trained for years. And it just didn't seem fair to me. It seemed wrong. And it seemed wrong, the mockery of Heinrich on this one. And so at this moment, when I read this when I was younger, I kind of stopped liking Bastian.
I think that's right.
Respect him as a hero because I thought he's the hero. Now that I read this as an adult, I realize that my instincts there were right, but not in the way I thought they were.
Mm-hmm. He was the hero. So it's again, that cyclical nature. This was not a great move. It was shameful for him to do that and to be celebrated for having won. Interesting, though, that Atreyu looks at him and says, you know what? We don't need to go look for the savior. We found him. He's like, but he looked different before. Before, he looked pale and chubby. And Bastian's like, I was never pale and chubby. What? But Atreyu says, you were. I saw you. But it's the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell it's you from your eyes.
I can't help but think back to what the werewolf was saying when he was talking with Atreyu in the first half of this, where he was saying that when the creatures of Fantastica went into the nothing, they entered into the human world as lies. When they entered into that world, they were not true. They were lies. They could be pretty lies. They could be ugly lies, but they were lies. Bastian has now entered from our world into the fantasy world and is becoming a lie. That's not who he is. Although, because of his wishes, he can certainly appear to have all these strengths and skills. Mm-hmm. And this started to haunt me.
I will say about the Amarganthians. I have no idea how to say that town, but it's beautiful. The Silver City on the Lake of Tears. Everybody's name has a Q in it. And the oldest one there, he's the leader of the town, Silver Sage Quirkobad, many Qs. And the letters become important. They're not pivotal to the story, but I think it's very lovely how he uses them in the naming. So just know in this town, everybody has Qs in their names, which is great. And of course, Falcor is there because he is Atreyu's partner.
Yes, you don't separate the two of them. Bastian and Atreyu do get to truly meet here, and I do find this beautiful. And so it was with Bastian and Atreyu who were sitting side by side on the broad balcony of Quirkobad's palace. Neither had ever heard the song of Electraegan before. Hand in hand, they listened in silent delight. Each knew that the other shared his feeling, a feeling of joy at having found a friend. and they took care not to spoil it with idle words. As much as Bastian has irritated me at this point, he and Atreyu become friends here. They are true friends and close to each other.
Well, and we said in the first part that they are linked. They are on that mirror image of each other because Atreyu is who saw Bastian in the mirror at the Southern Oracle. When he was looking at the reflection, they're definitely a pair. And this silent camaraderie and companionship is very great, especially as you listen to a luck dragon singing. Very beautiful as it's described. But I love that Bastian still has questions about Falkor. Like, doesn't he ever sleep? And Atreyu says, he's sleeping now. He can sleep as he flies. And the bronze bell sound of his singing is just so beautiful. Love the luck dragon.
Love the luck dragon. Bastian and Atreyu do start to kind of talk to each other because they share something in common. They have now both worn the Arin.
Well, here's where Bastian shows him. And Atreyu, he always describes, the author describes his inscrutable look. You can't tell what he's thinking, but it's his, oh, you have the Arin now. And Bastian actually asks him, do you want it back? He's like, no, I don't.
Bastian then asks him if he's seen the inscription. Yes, said Atreyu, I've seen it, but I don't know what it says. How come? Greenskins can read tracks in the forest, but not letters. This time it was Bastian who said, oh. What does it say? Atreyu asked. Do what you wish, Bastian read. Bastian asks him if he had known that, what it said, would he have done anything different? And I think it speaks a lot to who Atreyu is, that Atreyu says, no, I wouldn't have done anything different. I did what I wished.
I did what I wanted to do. How clever is it that Atreyu cannot read letters? This whole thing, again, every chapter starts with a different letter of the alphabet. There are 26 chapters. Each has its own letter. Atreyu cannot read letters. They needed a human to come give names, to tell stories, to put letters together into sequence and a story that makes sense and have something wonderful about them. That's not something anyone in Fantastica, even Atreyu, who's awesome, nothing that they can do. I think that's so clever.
It's very clever. And I think the more we journey in this second half, the more we're going to explore these themes of the connection between our world and the fantasy world. Right here, though, Atreyu and Bastian are still talking, and Bastian says, you said you didn't recognize me before in the mirror. And he says, yeah, you look different. You were fat and pale, and you were wearing different clothes. Bastian smiled. Fat and pale, he said incredulously. Are you sure it was me? He's forgotten. He does not remember what he was before, but Atreyu saw him and does remember.
But this triggers a new wish for Bastian because he's carrying the gem. Atreyu knows there's power there and it allows him to do things. But it says he wanted to win Atreyu's wholehearted admiration. And he tries to figure out what he can do, separate from the amulet even. What was he good at? Stories. He could make up stories. He was tops at that, making up stories. And that is his special gift. And that becomes this wonderful part of this story. This is really good.
Really good.
They have a festival where people bring their skills. There's bards and troubadours, music and things. But they're running short on stories. It says, our stock of stories is small, and many of us must share this little. But word has gone round, whether true or not, I don't know, that you, Bastian, in your world are famous for your stories. Is that the truth? And he says, yes, they even made fun of me for it. And it's the Silver Sage talking like, made fun of you. Like they covet this. They want this. And so will you help us with your genius is the question. But he says, with pleasure, I will tell you all the stories that I have ever known, ever come up with. And he does tell this wonderful story about their lake, the Lake of Tears.
This is the story of the Library of Amarganth. And I'm going to abbreviate this unless you wanted to read the whole thing.
No, but it's fantastic. Again, I would go read this. This one I highly recommend for everybody.
It's beautiful. It is stunning. But the story in brief, in this city, back in the beginning when it was still early, A warrior kills a unicorn and takes the stone from its horn. This is an evil thing, and the city is then under a curse where they cannot have more children. The last 2 residents of the city, they're down to only 2, request the aid of a race called the Akiris. These are a very ugly, ugly people to make the city beautiful, because they have learned that only by doing this can they release the curse. It has to be the most beautiful city. So this hideous, ugly race are masters of silver filigree. And so they make this incredibly beautiful city, but they won't come out in the light. They won't come out in the day because their ugliness makes them weep. And it is the tears of the Arkiris that make the lake of tears. But it is their skill and their talent that make this the most beautiful city in all of Fantastica. And in the middle of this city, they build the great library that nobody else knows was a library until now. And it is sealed with that stone that came from the unicorn's horn. And within this library are all the tales that Bastian has ever told.
It is so cool. I have to read a couple bits of it, but they fit inside of what you just said. Well summarized, brother, because there's a lot in there. But the Akiris, or how did you say it? Akiris?
I don't know what's right.
No, I just want to be consistent.
I think I say it.
Akiris? Because the Akiris, they are so ugly, they weep uninterruptedly. And for that reason, they are also known as the Weepers. Their stream of tears wash the special silver deep down in the earth, and from it they make the most wonderful filigree. And the leader, the Q guy, the Silver Sage, he says, "You have given us our own history." And this building that's been there, their whole existence, they didn't know what it was. They don't even know how to open it. And Bastian's stoked. You're like, really? It's here? Like, he just told this story. It is a beautiful story. Fantastic. Well done. But he's amazed and just pleased that the building is actually there. And so they walk up to it. He's like, "Can I see?" Says, "Removed from the unicorn's horn, I lost my light. I shall keep the door locked until my light is rekindled by him who calls me by name. For him I will shine 100 years. I will guide him in the dark depths of yours Merud. If he says my name a second time from the end to the beginning, I will glow in one moment with the light of 100 years." Now that is Greek to me, which is funny because I'm learning Greek. That is bewildering to me. None of that makes sense. So if I'm reading, you're like, what? We don't know what a lot of that means yet. They didn't know what it means. But here, Bastian can say the name, Al-Sahir. And this gem comes off into his hand, and the door opens. And this wonderful library of all the stories he could come up with, because he says, I can always make new ones. And they're divided into sections, like libraries are. Funny stories, serious stories, exciting stories, and so on. It is the library of the collected works of Bastian Balthazar Bucks.
Remember that Bastian's wish was to win admiration specifically from Atreyu. And it says Atreyu looked around in amazement. Bastian saw to his delight that his friend was overcome with admiration.
Atreyu can't even read an inscription on the Auron, which is the most important thing to him. And he just marvels that Bastian could have made up all these stories. So cool. It'd be like going on the most amazing hike anywhere to the middle of nowhere, and it's just this grand, wonderful place, and then you find something that you created that people admire. Of the wishes he makes and the stories he tells, this is one of my favorites.
Oh, absolutely. And think of what good this does, because this entire people are dedicated to telling and reciting stories. And so he has added this treasure trove of things that they can continue to work on and recite and speak. This is what humans bring to Fantastica. They bring new stories, they bring creation, they bring depth and richness, and he has done that here. He does it through the telling of story, and he does it through naming. He's able to enter into it because he was able to name the stone. And so here he's doing everything I think he should be doing.
With a twist, but we'll get to that. But here, Triple H, the 3 knights, show up. And they ask Bastian if they can come with him. He says, one of the knights says, each one of us longs to acquire a story of his own. They just saw Bastian give this people a story. They want one too. And Bastian doesn't really need them because he's so awesome. But he says, yes, of course you can. Come with me.
But they are feeling bad for Heinrich because Heinrich the hero is not the greatest. And so his love does not love him in return. And he's got no purpose anymore. His purpose is heroing. And they point out, well, in this land with no monsters, there's not much use for a hero. And so Bastian decides that he's going to help him. And he describes, again, a story. Far, far from here, Bastian began, there's a country called Morgul, or the land of the cold fire, because flames there are colder than ice. How you are to reach that country, I can't tell you. You must find out for yourself. In the center of Morgul, there is a petrified forest called Wogdabe. In the center of that petrified forest stands the leaden castle of Ragar. It is surrounded by 3 moats. The first is full of arsenic, the second of steaming nitric acid, and the third is swarming with scorpions as big as your feet. There are no bridges across them, for the lord of the leaden castle is Smurg, the winged monster. His wings are made of slimy skin, and their spread is 100 feet. When he isn't flying, he stands on his hind legs like a gigantic kangaroo. He has the body of a mangy rat and the tail of a scorpion with a sting at the end of it. The merest touch of that sting is fatal. He has the hind legs of a giant grasshopper. His forelegs, however, which look small and shriveled, resemble the hands of a small child. But don't let that fool you. There's a deadly power in those hands. He can pull in his long neck as a snail does its feelers. There are 3 heads on it. One is large and looks like the head of a crocodile. From its mouth he can spit icy fire. But where a crocodile has its eyes, it has 2 protuberances. These are extra heads. One resembles the head of an old man. With it he can see and hear, but he talks with the second head, which has the wrinkled face of an old woman. And so he keeps describing this just incredible animal.
There's a special way to kill it. You got to go find the leaden axe that's in the basement. Like, it's absurd. A lot of detail with this dragon. It's a dragon. He makes up a dragon for this sad knight to go conquer and save a princess.
So the dragon then flies in, steals the princess, and goes away. And so Heinrich has a task. He has a quest, and so Heinrich goes after him. And Bastian worries that maybe he made this a little too hard.
It does seem complex.
But don't worry, because the chapter ends. As for hero Heinrich, he actually succeeded in reaching Morgul, the land of the cold fire. He ventured into the petrified forest of Wogdabe, crossed the 3 moats of Ragar Castle, found the lead axe, and slew the dragon Smurg. Then he brought Oglamar back to her father. At that point, she would gladly have married him. But by then, he didn't want her anymore. That, however, is another story, and shall be told another time.
This one made me laugh because in his very long description of this monster that no one's ever seen, he includes the name, that name Smurg, but the hero, it says, Hero Heinrich went pale. What was this monster's name? Smurg, Bastian repeated. It's like, you missed it. It's like smack dab in the middle. A lot of detail there. And it also cracks me up because nobody's seen it. They're like, a monster? We've never seen anything like that. Then suddenly there's screams and it comes and takes this girl away. It's only Atreyu who looks at Bastian like, what did you just do?
Atreyu is always the foil for Bastian.
Here's where Atreyu says to Bastian, I brought you to Fantastica. I think I ought to help you find the way back to your own world. You mean to go back sooner or later, don't you? And Bastian says, no. Why would I do that?
But at first he indicates yes. He's like, all right, let's go. And so this journey begins.
Yeah, he's like, right. Of course you're right. Yeah.
So ostensibly, they're trying to find the way to get Bastian home. And Atreyu and Falkor join them, and Triple H is with them. And Bastian is riding on Yika, the mule, and the mule is so excited because now it's known that this is the savior of Fantastica, and he's deigning to ride upon Yika, and away they go. But his entire journey is based upon his wishes. He's got to wish something for the journey to proceed. And he doesn't want to go home. And so it becomes clear fairly quickly, at least to Yika, she's very smart, that what he's really doing is trying to get closer to the ivory tower, where the childlike empress lives.
And this wish that grows in him now is to be this, he calls it a great benefactor, to be powerful amongst people and to show them his goodness, right? His good actions. And he had told a story back in Amarganth, however you say it, I'm sorry. The Acaris were the sad ones. And they show up in the dark. Him and Atreyu are sitting in a cave. And they hear the sound outside. And he's never afraid. But they go investigate. And he shines this light. And these peoples who are so deformed, they weep when light shines on them. I say, put it away, put it away. Their tears are building this beautiful filigree tower of silver. It's gorgeous, but they're so hideous and so sad. They're the weepers. That was the story he created. And now he actually meets these peoples and he feels bad for them. And he's like, here, I'll fix it. You're going to go to sleep. And when you wake up, you're going to be different. You're going to wake up like these colorful butterflies. And you're not going to be the weepers anymore. You're going to be like the Schlamoofs. I get the name wrong.
The Schlamoofs. Isn't that great? I kind of like that one.
It's silly. But they don't even hear the rest of the story. They fall asleep.
And when they wake up, they have metamorphed into giant, ridiculous butterflies. They're basically clowns. It describes them as clown butterflies that are just flapping around and laughing and silly. They've got no seriousness. They can't listen. And they start tearing apart this tower.
They're destructive.
That they had been building. They're ripping it to pieces. They have no purpose. They have no plan. They have no goal. And away the Schlamoofs go. And Bastian actually wonders whether he really did a good thing there or not. I mean, he was heartbroken when they were sad, but this doesn't seem good. And as this is all progressing, Atreyu and Bastian keep having conversations, or I should say Atreyu keeps trying to talk to Bastian because he is his friend and he's trying to help him. But he brings up past conversations. He says, tell us some more about Krista. And it's funny because it's spelled all weird, but the name is just Krista, who was a friend of Bastian's who he told stories to. And he had told Atreyu that he told stories to her. And he's like, who's Krista? He doesn't remember her. And Atreyu starts to see that every wish he makes, he's losing a part of himself. He's forgetting something about his home. I mean, it's really fascinating because there's a great line in here where Bastian is talking about, you know, it's the aura that I wear that allows me to do these wishes, right? I've been commissioned by the childlike empress. It gives me the means to do this. And Atreyu says it gives you the means, but it takes away your purpose. And I think that's profound. But Bastian is not worried about it.
Yeah. Atreyu keeps asking him memories from home. He's kind of collecting, but he's also his friend, and he's worried about Bastian. He says, the amulet gives you great power and makes all your wishes come true. But at the same time, it takes something away, your memory of your world. And Bastian's like, I don't remember forgetting anything. Isn't that such a thing? Like, I don't remember. Seems fine.
Yeah.
But Atreyu is more and more worried. Every time he makes a wish, something is lost in his memory, in Bastian's memory. And so seemingly he did a good thing to help this Acaris to now be the Schlamoofs, the happy butterflies, happy goofy butterflies. But they're destructive now. They're destroying the thing that they had that was beautiful about them. And Atreyu wonders what Bastian lost.
Yeah, the line here is good. What do you think, Atreyu? He whispered. Atreyu was silent for a while. Then he replied, I only wonder what it may have cost you. Not until somewhat later, after Atreyu had fallen asleep, did it dawn on Bastian that his friend had been referring not to his self-abnegation, but to his loss of memory. But he gave the matter no further thought and fell asleep in joyful anticipation of the morrow.
Mm-hmm. So you said earlier he did something good in giving the Amarganth the stories of their origin stories. And he did, and it was wonderful, one of my favorites. But there's a twist to it. And we've talked about first things first before and motive in stories, not just in story, but in life. Why you do something matters a lot. He gave them that because he wanted to impress his friend. So I think this one comes back to him in a painful way because it wasn't right ordered. He didn't do it for their good. He did it for his own good. And he did a great job. And it's not that only bad came from it, but it does circle back to him. Again, this book is cyclical in many different ways, and most things have some kind of balance. That one comes back.
Well, I think that's a great point. I hadn't really considered that idea of the motivation. And again, the cycles and balance. And so the balance here is you have the joy and the beauty of this great city, but then you have the sorrow and despair and weeping of the Icarus. And he is responsible for that too, because he did create that. So, yeah, lots to think about there.
All right. We can speed up a little bit if you want. There's just a lot good in this.
I love this second half. I mean, this is, again, what I have been looking forward to talking through this because, and it shocked me again on this read through. I'd read this before, but I read it through different eyes this time. And there were parts of it that I just didn't remember. And the heights he goes to, the author, in terms of his descriptions. I mean, this is just an excuse for him to just go off the leash in terms of just beauty and power of the land itself. And it's fantastic. And they're still journeying. So they have left the laughers, the schlemoofs behind, and they are traveling along. And this is exciting because Bastian gets to ride Falkor.
Well, he's in a bad mood, and Atreyu knows it'll make him happy, so he's like, I've always wanted to ride a pack mule. Could we switch?
Well played, Atreyu. Well played.
Bastian gets to ride the luck dragon. Wonderful.
After this, Atreyu and Falkor are always a team. You can kind of tell some of the things I think about stories by the way I write things in my notes, and I've started to just write Atreyu/Falkor. Because whatever one thinks, the other thinks, and they work together so close, which is beautiful. I love that pair. But Atreyu and Falkor advise Bastian for his good that he should probably stop using the Arin, that it's costing him. And we see more and more Bastian getting irritated with them. He does not like the advice they keep giving to him. And it's at this point that it becomes fairly clear that he doesn't want to go home. We've already known that.
I don't want to go back anymore.
Very clear.
Yeah.
They've been going in circles because he doesn't have a wish. He doesn't have a next place to go. But at this point, he states, well, I do have a wish. I want to go back and see the childlike empress again. And this is where we learn something else about her. And I don't remember this from the first half of the book. I think this first gets told here. Does it get told earlier?
It does. Falkor doesn't meet the childlike empress because he'd already seen her once before. No one can see her more than once.
But I don't remember that being stated as a rule. Was it stated as a rule? Okay, I believe you.
Sorry. It's a thing in the first half.
Good. Well, then that makes it consistent because here they say it very clearly that nobody can meet her more than once. Bastian doesn't like that at all. And he does point out that the Arin seems to be affecting him differently than it affected Atreyu. So maybe the rules don't apply to him like they apply to the residents of Fantastica.
Yeah, but Atreyu is horrified that Bastian doesn't want to go back. He says, you have to go back. You have to go back and straighten out your world so humans will start coming to Fantastica again. Otherwise, Fantastica will disappear sooner or later, and all our trouble will have been wasted. He went through that whole ordeal, nearly died, to bring a human to Fantastica because they were being forgotten. And if Bastian doesn't go back, that cycle doesn't continue. It stops it. And Bastian says, nope, he's too powerful. He's going to go see, he's going to the Ivory Tower to see the Empress.
As they are traveling, they gain a whole group. He gets an entourage here. The first ones that show up are fun. And again, there's this lineup of different kinds of creatures. There's something called a 4-quarter troll or a moody woody. There's a head footer, which is what is described, the head and the feet. There's a gnome. We've met those. There's a shadow scamp, a blondie cat, a sassafranian. We've learned about them in the first half because I think Atreyu passes through their country.
They're born old and they die as infants.
And there's a blue djinn named Ilwan. And this group all wants to join him. They say their people don't have stories. They need Bastian to give them stories, and they want to be part of the group of the savior of Fantastica. And so there is now a whole crew that is journeying with him.
I think in this next chapter, and if you're curious, we've made it to T.
We're cruising.
Going all the way to Z. But we get an enemy. We haven't really hit an enemy here. Like the monsters are neither good or bad, but this is really a villain or a villainess. It's this woman named, I don't know how to say it, brother, Saeed. Starts with an X.
I've been pronouncing it Zaid.
But she basically demands that Bastian serve her. She is a ruler. He will serve her. And he comes back strong. He's like, no, you will serve me.
Now, we have already seen over and over again that when there's a new, main creature, it is usually to meet a wish of Bastian. And Bastian has a wish here. Up to this point, his wishes have been somewhat vain, but understandable. Some of his wishes have been good. I mean, I don't think it's bad to want to be admired, especially by a good person like Atreyu. But here, he starts to get irritated at Atreyu and Falkor. And he wants them to think of him in a different way. And it says he wanted to be dangerous and feared by all, including Atreyu and Falkor. And it's after this that Zaid makes the appearance.
It's interesting as that he's going to check out the castle, basically stake it out, because she kidnaps the Triple H, the 3 knights. She kidnaps them. And so Bastian's going to go rescue them. This is a mission now. But as he's flying on Falkor to look at the castle, he tells Atreyu, he gets really frustrated. He's like, I'm wearing Orin. I saved the world. You listen to me. And he says, something I want to make clear once and for all. I've made up my mind. I'm not going back. I'm staying in Fantastica. Interestingly, Falkor, the luck dragon, always counts to luck. He gasps and stops flying. Bastian says, keep going. He's like, I can't. It steals the luck dragon's ability to fly. It's stealing Falkor's ability to trust to luck. This is really twisting into something ugly. Bastian is really becoming the villain.
Yeah, I mean, what does he say? I'm going to stay in Fantastica for good. I like it here, so I can manage without my memories. And if it's the future of Fantastica you're worried about, I can give Moonchild thousands of new names. We don't need the human world anymore. That split between these worlds never works. It steals the luck of the luck dragon. How horrible is that?
So this lady defends her castle with these stone or metal giants, which are really interesting. But Bastian has a plan. He goes in with Atreyu and Falkor. He sends off the other peoples with them, like some kind of decoy. But they rescue these heroes. And he doesn't use his sword to do it. He does use the sword to take out a bunch of these giants defending her castle. And he finds out there's nothing in them. They're empty. They're hollow, which is weird.
Do you remember the movie Bedknobs and Broomsticks?
Absolutely, I do.
Great old Disney movie at the end where they enchant all the suits of armor to fight.
But those are good guys.
That's what I was saying here. Those are good guys.
These are bad guys. Well, they're working for the bad lady.
Working for the bad lady.
But in Fantastica, we are not supposed to gauge between good and bad. But if Bastian won't go back, it actually creates these divisions that weren't there before. Anyway, he goes to confront this lady, Zaid. And she defers to him, says, okay, you win. I give up. I will serve you.
She grovels. I mean, she prostrates herself and has him put her foot on her neck. I mean, she is totally submitting here. And she offers to serve him, and Bastian accepts it. And it does say, Zaid smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. In that moment, Bastian's memory of having been a child in his world was effaced.
As they head out to find the rest of their group that he'd sent off in a different direction, It turns out she'd sent litter bearers ahead to carry her. And Atreyu says, this isn't right. She let you win. This was planned. And Bastian doesn't respond well at all. He's purple with anger. Enough of this. I didn't ask for your opinion. You make me sick with your lecturing, and now you question my victory and ridicule my magnanimity. He's sending away the only real friend he has in Fantastica. And erasing his memories as he does it. Doesn't even miss them.
And when I was younger and reading this continued to bother me because he's not acting like a hero. He's not showing himself very well here. Now, on this read through, I did enjoy one other thing we learn here in this next chapter. He has a coat of arms.
Yes.
It is the 7-armed candelabra from the attic. So great.
I noticed that too. And I like the title of the next chapter is The Star Cloister.
His wishes keep progressing, and this time his wish is to be wise. I mean, he's already handsome and strong and tough and enduring and courageous and all these other things. Now he wants to be wise, and Fantastica adjusts to that, and he gets to have his wish answered here. And these owls fly in, because what represents wisdom but owls? The owls are representatives of the 3 deep thinkers. They have questions. They are looking for the great knower, which obviously is Bastian. And so he and Atreyu and I think Falkor and Zaid, they all journey to the Star Cloister where the deep thinkers are.
Sorry, I don't think Falkor goes anymore because he's losing his ability to fly.
Oh, okay.
But Bastian requests specifically Atreyu and Zaid, who are not friendly in any way. And they're like, why those two? We're like, you'll see. This whole time he's being coached by this new lady who let him win and take her with him. And it's almost like Wormtongue in The Lord of the Rings, where she's coaching him on what he should do. Like Atreyu's been coaching him and he doesn't listen. She tells Bastian, think more of your own perfection. That's where that desire for wisdom comes from. And he asks her, how do you make those giants move? That's weird. They're hollow. And she says, my will. It's because they're empty that they do my will. My will can control anything that's empty. I think there's a lot to that. But let's move on to the deep thinkers. A lot like Deep Thought, the big computer in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
That's right. Well, I guess one other thing on Zaid, I think before they go off, she does give him a gift. It's a belt that makes its wearer invisible. But if you want it to belong to you, my lord, you must give it its name. Well, he's good at that. The belt Gemal. And so he now has this tool. But Zaid has plans for this. She's going to use this as she's using Bastian and using all these circumstances against him.
And this is part of that push to become wise, to defend himself, to be separate, cold and indifferent. That is when you are truly powerful.
Yeah, and he buys into this. He had been through so much. He had known joy and fear, discouragement and triumph. He had rushed from wish fulfillment to wish fulfillment, never stopping to rest, and nothing had brought him calm and contentment. To be wise was to be above joy and sorrow, fear and pity, ambition and humiliation. It was to hate nothing and to love nothing, and above all, to be utterly indifferent to the love and hate of others. A truly wise man attached no importance to anything. Nothing could upset him, and nothing could harm him. Yes, to be like that would be his final wish. The wish that would bring him to what he really wanted. Now he thought he understood what Grogamon had meant by those words, and so he wished to become wise, the wisest being in Fantastica.
Just a piece of that you just said. Nothing could upset him and nothing could harm him. I don't know. There's a C.S. Lewis quote, and if I had your brain, I could pull it out. But it's to the essence, I think, of you're vulnerable if you love something. But truly, what is life without it?
Yeah.
What is life if you are cold and indifferent and separate? And he's losing the friendship and trust of his friend. It is hard to read, and it should be. Your instincts were right, brother. Like, he's not making good choices here, and it's not fulfilling what he actually wants. And yet with that circular pattern, it's almost reassuring in its way that it is driving him towards what he really needs.
Yeah.
But first, he must become wise.
Well, we learned from the many-colored death that this journey of wishes was the most dangerous one. And so his journey of wishes continues, and he goes to the three knowers, the thinkers, the deep thinkers. And this is fantastic because one of them is an eagle, one of them is an owl, and one of them is a fox. And he stands before them as they ask him questions. And there are three great questions that they ask on subsequent days.
O great knower, hear our question. What is Fantastica?
Fantastica is the never-ending story.
Give us time to understand your answer. Let us meet again here tomorrow at the same hour. We got to think about that.
And so they do think about it. And then they show up again on the next day. And on the next day, they have another question.
If, as you say, Fantastica is the never-ending story, where is the never-ending story to be found?
In a book bound with copper-colored silk.
And then they take a day to think about it.
Huh. Interesting.
Again, we have meditated on your answer, O great knower. And again, a new question comes to perplex us. If our world, Fantastica, is a never-ending story, and if this never-ending story is in a book bound in copper-colored silk, where then is this book?
And I love this part because he says, I'll show you. Remember back in the Silver City, there was that inscription when he took that stone from the wall. And what we get here is a reminder of the second half of that inscription. But if he says my name a second time from the end to the beginning, I will glow in one moment with the light of 100 years. And so he takes them out onto the turret where they can all see into the night, and he raises the stone from the unicorn's horn and says, Al Tasir. And all of a sudden, there is this flash of light, and everyone sees the attic where the book is.
And we said last week that there is what? A fox, an owl, and a something. What's the other one?
An eagle.
And an eagle in the attic. So they all see themselves. He doesn't say Al Sahir. That's at the library. Here he has to say it backwards.
Oh, good point. Yes. Yes, I forgot that.
It's
Rihasla.
that balance. It's that balance thing. Rihasla, which is cool.
That sounds kind of Klingon.
It does. Oh, man. People who speak Klingon are going to reach out to us now. Be like, it does not.
It might be a curse word.
I don't know. I'm very sorry. Anyway, these great knowers are just marveling that they saw themselves. Funny that each one sees their own self in this attic.
Yeah, Bastian at this point has displayed his greatness as the great knower and is out of there. He doesn't have time for this anymore. But I love that there's as always, another story. That night, the usual harmony of the three deep thinkers was disturbed by a first radical difference of opinion, which years later led to the breakup of the community. The breakup was that they each thought they saw a different animal because they saw themselves. Then Ushtu, the mother of intuition, Shirkri, the father of vision, and Yasipu, the son of reason, each founded a cloister of his own. But that is another story and shall be told another time. And then more sadly, that night Bastian lost all memory of having gone to school. The attic and the stolen book bound in copper-colored silk vanished from his mind, and he even stopped asking himself how he had come to Fantastica.
I will say at this moment, I truly love how many stories we've done that treat memory differently.
Yeah, good point. Because that was a great point you brought up on Still Alice after The Giver.
Mm-hmm. And where they can be this gift to us, they can also be this burden to us. But here he's losing himself without his memories. So in The Giver, they've lost themselves because they've given all of them away. And so there's something about choosing, I think, to let go of your memory. Here he doesn't care. He's told Atreyu many times. Mm-hmm. He's fine without them. Better off without them. I think that's interesting that it's such a recurring thing inside of story, the value of memory and the different ways of looking at that value.
Even going back to the Eddas, Odin has two ravens, thought and memory. He says he worries about thought coming back, but he's especially worried about memory. I mean, we talked about it then, too.
Yeah.
And wow, yeah, that plays through so much.
I think it's foundational.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just strange to me how many different ways authors and storytellers can take it. And they all are kind of true.
Well, we've worked our way to the letter V. And this has, I think, a sad title to this chapter. This chapter is titled The Battle for the Ivory Tower.
Within Bastian, two feelings were at war, and he was unable to silence either one. He longed to meet Moonchild, now that he was famous and admired throughout Fantastica. He could approach her as an equal. But at the same time, he was afraid she would ask him to return Orin to her. And then what? He's got fear holding him back from this thing he thinks he wants. He's also not spending a lot of time thinking. He has stopped thinking, and that is a problem, whether here or in Fantastica.
Agreed.
But he's on his way toward the Ivory Tower. Atreyu and Falkor are at the back of the line. Atreyu has been banished, in essence, to the back, but only trails along because Bastian is his friend. And he misses them. Bastian misses them. At some point, he puts on that invisibility belt that he hasn't even really touched since it freaked him out to put it on. Like his body disappeared. It was weird. But he wants to go be by them without that, nagging problem of apologizing or feeling bad for his choices. So he does. He goes and hangs out.
And he spies on them, and he listens to them speak. And I think it's fundamentally important to remember that Atreyu is still Bastian's friend. And as Atreyu and Falkor are talking, Atreyu says, I'll have to steal it. He's talking about the Orin. He's not doing it for power. He's not doing it because he wants it for his own gain. He believes it is destroying his friend. And Falkor and Atreyu talk about this, about how they're going to do it, and that they're going to have to do it tonight. Bastian is listening. He hears all of this, and he can only see this as a betrayal.
Yeah, and that lady Zaid had been telling he's going to take it. He's going to try and take it. He's had a worm tongue in his company. Oh, I will point out, kind of a side story, but I love it. The pack mule, Yikke, has been his friend, and she has been so proud to bear him all this way. But Zaid has convinced him that the pack mule's not worthy, right? Not high enough to carry the savior. She really builds up his ego. Not like he needs a lot of help with that, but she builds it up. But he does love Yikke still. So he sends her away, and she's devastated. Where will I go? Why are you sending me away? Haven't I done a good job? And he gives her a story because she had told him this sadness for her that mules can't have children. She doesn't have anyone to tell her story to. He says, no, there's a white stallion just for you. And he thinks you're the most beautiful thing in the world. And that is how you're going to have children.
And it's a winged stallion. It is a winged stallion. And he happens to be over in that thicket. And this is how Yikke ends up leaving. And it is a gift to Yikke. And it says that out of this union came the only known white flying mule. But that is another story and will be told another time.
And that I think he did just because he cared for the mule.
I think so.
And so that one doesn't circle back to him. That one doesn't hurt him. Maybe he loses a memory from it. We don't know. But at this point, that one was a gift, and I love it.
Yeah, I like that one too.
But anyway, Zaid has been telling him that Atreyu's going to take the Orin from you. He's going to try. And here Bastian overhears them talking about it. Atreyu is going to try. And this is the first time Bastian uses his will to command those hollow giants.
Yeah, because remember, Falkor is amazing, and Atreyu is amazing. And so he asked these hollow giants, do you think you can handle Falkor the Luck Dragon? They respond, that depends on the will that guide us. It is my will, said Bastian. Then there is no one we cannot handle, was the answer. he doesn't send them off to capture Atreyu.
They guard him.
They guard him because he wants to catch Atreyu. And he does. Atreyu is caught. And then I think he did send them off to catch Falkor, because Falkor isn't going to sneak up to the tent.
It says that Bastian didn't want to be there, though, when they capture Atreyu. He didn't want to be the one to bring him in. He does this very high kingly speech when he brings in Atreyu. He says, I have not forgotten that it was you who brought me to Moonchild. I have not forgotten Falkor's singing and Amargant. So I'll spare your lives, the lives of a thief and of a thief's accomplice. Do what you will, just so you go away. The farther the better, and never let me lay eyes on you again. I banish you forever. I have never known you.
And away they go. Now, I didn't catch that Falkor couldn't fly. And I think part of why I didn't catch that is he flies here.
It comes back around. I think when they're separated from Bastian, but with Bastian on his back, he couldn't.
Okay.
But they're walking at the back for a long part of this journey. But yes, it definitely comes back.
Okay.
Because he's a luck dragon. You can't keep him down.
They are approaching the ivory tower.
Oh, wait. And here's where Zaid, his counselor now, says, at last, you have achieved true greatness. Now you've stopped caring for anything. Now, nothing can move you.
And she doesn't stop whispering in his ear here. Bastian has received a message from something called a Nimbly. It's a rabbit. They're fast. They're good messengers.
I did not know that.
Who has told him that Moonchild is not in the ivory tower. That's his whole point of going here, is to find her. And at this point, he has further conversation with Zaid. Do you think she'll be back? No, I don't believe so. I believe she has had to leave Fantastica forever, and that you, my lord and master, are her successor. Zaid is convincing him to declare himself emperor. I, he gasped, and his cheeks broke out in red spots. Do you find the idea so frightening? Zaid whispered. She gave you the emblem of her power. Now she has left you her empire. Now, my lord and master, you will be the childlike emperor. It is only your right. You not only saved Fantastica by your coming, you also created it. All of us, I too, are your creatures. Why should you, the great knower, fear to take the power that is rightfully yours? This doesn't seem like a good idea.
It's not a good idea. And again, with the inception of these ideas, like crafting a world and power can be yours, he's not happy now. It's horrible now. And it's interesting as they approach the ivory tower and they walk up to the Magnolia Pavilion, where the childlike empress, that is her home. He remembers wounded Atreyu being on those steps. He lived it with him. He felt that with him when he was reading that story in the attic. How much better off was he then? Just experiencing this noble act of Atreyu. And here they're coming to take it by force. It's gross. They planned this elaborate coronation ceremony, 77 days. I assume that has to do with the candelabra, the 7. Seems specific.
Seems likely. Well, and the other thing, too, is we learned in the first half that nobody passes that final distance to the Magnolia Tower. Pavilion. Nobody knows how they get there. It is only ever a gift that they go that last distance. And so they can't get there. He keeps having workmen trying to carve stairs and things, and they just can't do it. And so it's just crazy. He does come up with another idea. At length, he hit on the idea of wishing for Moonchild to come to him. If he was really all-powerful, if all his wishes came true, she would have to obey him. For whole nights he sat there whispering, Moonchild, come, you must come, I command you to come. He thought of her glance, which had lain in his heart like a glittering treasure. But she did not come, and the more he tried to make her come, the fainter became his memory of that glitter in his heart, until in the end, all was darkness within him. He's trying to use her very power to command her, and then he's losing that glitter. He's losing her in his heart.
Atreyu had told him that you're losing your purpose. And it says that he would have liked to wish for something or make up a story to amuse himself, but nothing occurred to him. He felt hollow and empty. There's nothing there. He's like those giants now that are just pushed along by a will. Whose will is he following? Not his own.
And that was a point you made earlier, or you at least alluded to, about Zaid. She could command anything that's empty.
Mm-hmm. There's a verse in the Bible about cleaning out a house, but if you leave it empty, like 7 devils will come back and it'll be worse off than it was before. I forget which book that's in, but emptiness is not a replacement for cleaning something out, starting clean. You have to fill it with something worth filling it with. And here he's hollow and just being pushed along this horrible path.
And that hollowness is extending to all his followers as well. Triple H, these 3 mighty warriors that have been with him from the beginning, they just fall into debauchery here. I mean, they're not doing anything worthwhile. They're tormenting the elves. I mean, they're terrible. They're getting drunk and fighting and raising a ruckus. And when he approaches them about it, they say, well, what do you expect? You haven't given us anything to do. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is a boy whose job is to provide story. And he's not providing them with stories. He's just following his own ambition here. And it's not even his own ambition. He's following the ambition of someone else. But that ambition leads to, as you said, this ridiculous ceremony that he has built up where he is going to have himself crowned the emperor.
And then came the day of the coronation that did not take place. It went down in the history of Fantastica as the day of the bloody battle for the ivory tower. Atreyu and Falkor have built an army to come stop Bastian. And they approach the ivory tower, and it says that there's death on both sides. But Atreyu's side actually makes it in. It says they do better than they should have done against the numbers because they had something to fight for. He was fighting for his friend. He's trying to help his friend still. And at the end, there's a confrontation between the two of them. And Atreyu has his sword against Bastian's chest. And he doesn't kill him. He says, give me the Orin.
He says, give me the amulet. For your own sake. Again, this is all based out of friendship. This is all for the benefit of Bastian, but Bastian can't see that. Traitor, cried Bastian, you are my creature. I created the whole lot of you, including you. So how can you rebel against me? Kneel down and beg forgiveness. You're mad, cried Atreyu. You didn't create anything. You owe everything to Moonchild. Give me Orin. We see that Bastian is so wrapped up in his own self that he can't see anything here. And what's really fascinating about this is that even with Atreyu's sword against his chest, Secunda, the sword, doesn't come out of its sheath. Atreyu is not an enemy. The sword knows that, and it will not come out to attack him.
Atreyu says, Bastian, why do you force me to defeat you in order to save you? Interesting, and the balance there. The end of part 1, as we broke it off, Bastian wouldn't say the name. He wouldn't say her name. It says he would, and he's too afraid. He wouldn't do it. He makes the childlike, he waits so long, he makes the childlike empress go out of her way. She travels to the old man of the mountain. He won't take the step. And that was a good step. This too would be a good step. And still, there's someone who's trying to make him do it out of care and compassion. So I love Atreyu. I just want to say, like, his pain at doing this is so clear. Mm-hmm. But yes, the sword will not come into Bastian's hand. So he hauls it out of the sheath. He uses his will to pull it from the sheath, which was the thing he was warned against doing by the lion Grogomon.
That it was going to cause misfortune for him and for Fantastica. And the sword, it's such a powerful sword. Atreyu can't stand up to it. This cleaves through Atreyu's sword, and he is wounded in the chest. But then there's a flash of light, and Falkor comes and takes Atreyu away. Bastian doesn't know whether he's dead or not. Doesn't know whether he's killed him or not. But he is furious with him because as he turns around, what he sees is the Magnolia Pavilion up in flames.
And he screams vengeance. Vengeance on Atreyu. This is Atreyu's doing. For this I will pursue him to the ends of the world. Hoisting himself up on one of the gigantic metal horses, this is a hollow horse, he cried, "Follow me." The horse reared, but he bent it to his will and galloped off into the night. I feel like there's a lesson for all of us when we're having any kind of problem, big or small, and we're like, you know what? It's their fault. Never goes well.
Never.
All right. We have made it to W. This one is interesting. It's called The City of the Old Emperors.
This is great. The whole end of this book, I mean, I've enjoyed it all up to now. It's made me think. But these final chapters are, I think, particularly profound. So Bastian has told his followers, "Follow me," as he rides off on this ghost horse that he's driving with his will. But remember, he's the toughest, the strongest, has the most endurance. No one can keep up with him. And so he is on his own. He is far and away in the lead, chasing after Atreyu and Falkor. This steed he's riding cannot handle him. No matter how strong his will is, it goes until it just bursts apart and shatters. But then he continues. It is interesting that here he leaves behind his belt. Gemmel, the belt, he leaves behind. But he continues on.
He also has some time to think here, which I highly recommend for all people, including myself. He wonders why Atreyu hesitated. He comes off in a fury and just vengeance and just so angry. But then he remembers that Atreyu had him and he hesitated. And he remembers that he stabbed his friend and the look in Atreyu's eyes as he staggered and fell. Interestingly, when Moonchild first changed his appearance by his own wish, he was given a silver mantle. It's described in great beauty. Here, Bastian stands up, throws his black mantle over his shoulders, and with no idea where he's going, starts walking in the direction of the rising sun. Much has changed about our then hero, now villain.
He comes across a city, and he is met by a monkey. The monkey makes me laugh.
I'm curious about the monkey, and I went searching in fanfic about the name of the monkey.
Argax.
Sounds a lot like Artax.
I thought so too.
Who is our wonderful horse friend, Atreyu's wonderful horse and friend at the beginning. Argax is a cheeky monkey in this very odd city. I have seen no theories on the name comparison, though, but everything in here seems so carefully selected to me. There's something. I have to think more about it. I don't really get it right now. But this monkey gives him a tour of this city, and the people here are weird. They're doing weird things. The one that sticks in my mind was a lady putting peas on the end of a needle. She's like stringing peas. Everybody's doing really odd things. And the monkey tells him a lot of important things about this city.
A lot of important things. Yeah. This reminds me of old movies where they're showing you the inside of like insane asylums.
Yeah.
Where everybody is doing something crazy and just sort of out of the line. But he gives names to these. He says that these people, we call them the know-nothings. They don't know anything. And then he proceeds. Well, Bastian asks what the name of the city is. It hasn't actually got a name, said Argax, but one might, in a manner of speaking, call it the City of the Old Emperors. Old emperors? Bastian repeated with consternation. Why, I don't see anybody who looks like an old emperor. You don't, said the monkey with a giggle. Well, believe it or not, all the people you've seen were emperors of Fantastica in their time, or wanted to be. That is what Bastian was trying to do. He would have named himself emperor if Atreyu hadn't interrupted him with the Battle of the Ivory Tower. All these people, and these are people, these are humans, apparently had done so in the past, and this is where they end up.
the monkey, Argax explains, there have always been humans who couldn't find their way back to their world. First, they didn't want to, and now, in a manner of speaking, they can't. These people all carried the Orin at a different time. They could all make wishes. They all helped create Fantastica according to their wishes. But they lost their purpose and they used up their last wish and they never made it home.
Argax continues, you can only wish as long as you remember your world. These people here used up all their memories. Without a past, you can't have a future. That's why they don't get older. Just look at them. Would you believe that some of them have been here 1,000 years and more, but they stay just as they are? Nothing can change for them because they themselves can't change anymore. There's nothing left to change. They've lost their past, they've lost their memories, and they've lost their ability to make wishes. And so that's a fascinating thought, and it ties into what we've seen with Bastian, this idea that memories are the fuels for wishes. Really interesting.
And Bastian's curious. He's like, did somebody take the Orin from them? Like, no. When someone crowns himself emperor, it simply vanishes. Obviously, because how, in a manner of speaking, can you use Moonchild's power to take her power away from her? The concept of her power, I think, is something I will think about for a long time because very clearly she doesn't exert it ever. I think the only thing she pushes is when she goes to the old man of the Wandering Mountain and she makes him read a book.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't say which, read the story kind of thing. But here she gives her power to these humans who come to Fantastica and they can do anything. And yet clearly many of them misuse it to the point that they forget who they are. Not just a little bit, entirely. They lose all connection to everything. Bastian's on his way. It says he forgot his father. He's forgotten everything he's ever even cared about, ever even loved. Gone.
I think it's fascinating, that concept that if he had crowned himself, he would have ended up here. That would have been the last, it would have severed him from the Orin. But he says, then Atreyu saves me? Well, not quite. If he had succeeded in taking the gem from him, he would have been here too. So he has to have the Orin to make wishes, and he has to make wishes to get back home. So if Atreyu had taken it, that wouldn't have worked either. And so what has to happen is that Bastian has to use whatever remaining wishes he has to find what he really wants to get home. But the monkey doesn't think he's going to make it.
So question for you, because Bastian asked the childlike empress at the beginning, when he shows up, how many wishes can I make? As many as you want. Was that kind of her? Would it have changed anything if she'd explained a piece of this to him?
I have wondered that too, because he certainly didn't get a lot of guidance. He just got told, make wishes, and then she left, with no warning about what that would do to him or how he was supposed to proceed through those wishes. It is interesting, and I think at the end we'll talk some more about the childlike empress because I have a theory.
Okay. I think for me, I got hung up on that as many as you want. I think it has to do with desire and motivation again. Mm-hmm. That tends to be where I come back to on things. But anyway, before we leave this city, I think the jumble game is interesting. This funny monkey has given these people who are just roaming around, somewhat are very aimless, a game of letters. There's these cubes with letters on each side, and these are humans. Humans do things with letters. We learned that. They tell stories, they make up names, but these are all random. And so there is so much about letters and the creation of words and the forming of things. I mean, the chapter startings alone, but here that they're still letters, but they're gibberish. Mm-hmm. They're just random letters. But the monkey thinks this game is really funny because sometimes they'll come up with words just by chance. Not very brilliant words, but still words like spinach cramp or sugar brush or nose polish. It's a joke to the monkey. He thinks it's hilarious. And yeah, you play this game long enough with enough letters, you're going to come up with some kind of words. But here, it's not enough for there just to be letters. They have to be assembled. They have to be crafted. There has to be a will and a wish behind them. But again, it has to be the right kind. It's really good.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Bastian does not like what he's seeing here. And this whole experience is the first thing I think that really gets through to him. Mm-hmm. That he's in trouble, that he needs to find a way out, he needs to find a way home, and that his time is short. He doesn't have many wishes left. And so unlike most people that make it to this city, he gets out of the city and he starts to run from it and he leaves it behind.
He says, "Tell me, Argax, what must I do? Find a wish that will take you back to your world." And he has the realization that Atreyu helped him get here before it was too late. He's here still with wishes left, with the ability to tell stories left, because he has a friend there. But he's on his way out. He's trying to find a wish that will take him home.
With one leap, Argax vanished into one of the crazy houses. He had taken Bastian's turban with him. He's a cheeky monkey. But I think there's more to it than that, though. He left the belt behind. He's now lost his turban. He's slowly being divested of these things that really are kind of lies, that aren't really who he is. And the next step is a choice that he makes to abandon something. And this is his sword. He digs a hole and he put Sikanda in it. "Sikanda," he said, "I am taking leave of you forever. Never again shall anyone draw you against a friend. No one shall find you here until what you and I have done is forgotten." And there Sikanda lies to this day, for not until far in the future will one come who can wield it without danger. But that is another story and shall be told another time.
So now he's looking and he's wondering if there's a gate, a bridge, a mountain pass that would take him back. Where does he go from here? It says he had to wish for it, that he knew. But he had no power over his wishes. He felt like a diver who is searching the bottom of the sea for a sunken ship, but keeps being driven to the surface before he can find anything. And it describes how wishes cannot be summoned up or kept away at will. They come from deeper within us than good or bad intentions, and they spring up unannounced. And so before he knew it, a new wish arose within him and little by little took form. He's wandering alone, and he wants companionship. He wants people around him. He wants to be a part of a whole. And he makes his way to the seacoast, to the Sea of Mist.
The Sea of Mist, which they called the Skyden, was an enormous ocean of white vapor which divided the two parts of Fantastica from each other. None had ever found out how deep the Skyden was or where all this mist came from. It was quite possible to breathe below the surface of the mist and to walk some distance on the bottom of the sea near the coast where the mist was relatively shallow, but only if one was tied to a rope and could be pulled back. For the mist had one strange property. It fuddled one's sense of direction. Any number of fools and daredevils had died in an attempt to cross the Skyden alone and on foot. Only a few had been rescued. The only way to reach the other side was in the ships of the Escalnari. These are just a cool people. Wicker, the entire city, little town he's in, the village, the ships, everything are basically wicker baskets that are used to float through this sea of mist. And these people are interesting because they are entirely communal. They don't use words like I. They're a group. They're all together. They're all welcoming. They're all each other. And they welcome Bastian into the group with them as well, which is exactly what he was wishing for.
They informed Bastian that a voyage on the Skyden, the Sea of Mist, was very different from any other ocean voyage because no one knew how long it would take or exactly where it would end up. When Bastian said that didn't worry him, they agreed to take him on. Sign me up. And here, interestingly, they use almost this mind power, this force of will, but it's a collective. They join together, and their mental work together is what propels these wicker ship things through this mist. It's really interesting. It's very cohesive.
Mm-hmm. And the way they propel is through dance. They move and dance together as a group. And you're right, it's cohesive. It's them together dancing. And Bastian gets to learn this dance and to be a part of them. And he's not alone anymore.
So there's good and bad with this. It says he felt accepted by a community at one with his companions. And at the same time, he totally forgot that the inhabitants of the world from which he came and to which he was seeking the way back were human beings, each with his own thoughts and opinions. Dimly, he still remembered his home and parents, but nothing more. He's really dwindling down to the last bits of who he is in terms of his memories.
His wish to be no longer alone had come true, but now, deep in his heart, a new wish arose and began to make itself felt. One day it struck him that the Iskalnari lived together so harmoniously, not because they blended different ways of thinking, but because they were so much alike that it cost them no effort to inform a community. He describes a scene where one of them dies, like falls off the ship.
It's taken by a bird.
Nobody grieves. Nobody's sad. And they say, "Why should we grieve?" said one of them when Bastian inquired. "None of us is missing." They are such a community that there really is no individuality. And so even the loss of one of them is not something to be grieved. And it's here that his next wish really comes into full force. In this community of Iskalnari, there was harmony, but no love. He no longer wanted to be the greatest, strongest, or cleverest. He had left all that far behind. He longed to be loved, just as he was, good or bad, handsome or ugly, clever or stupid, with all his faults, or possibly because of them.
But what was he actually like? He asked that question. He doesn't know. He no longer knew. So much had been given to him in Fantastica, and now among all these gifts and powers, he could no longer find himself. So he departs, once they find land, he departs from this group, crossing the mist, and he ends up in a garden. This is a land full of roses. There were whole forests of roses of every imaginable color. A winding path led through the endless rose garden, and Bastian followed it.
This next chapter is so good. This is fantastic. But it starts with a little bit of a flashback's the wrong word, but it takes us to Zaid, because remember, she and Triple H had been following Bastian, and he had gotten so far ahead of them, and they come across the wrecked steed, and they come to the city of the old emperors, and she knows that the game is up, that this isn't something that she can do anymore. Bastian is done. He's not useful to her anymore. And so she has all those suits of armor that are controlled by will around her, and so she tells them, okay, we're going that way. And they don't listen. They were controlled by Bastian's will, and his will was stronger than hers. She actually stands in front of them to try to stop them, and they trample her to death. She is destroyed by her own creations, which is fitting and
seems
poetic.
Just, yes. Yeah, and the three knights, the Triple H's, they depart and they all have their own stories, but that's another story for another time, told in another place. As Bastian continues on through this winding path through this rose garden, he finds a sign, a pointing hand carved from wood. Beside it was written, "To the House of Change." This time he gets a literal pointer. It's very helpful.
Everything about this house is helpful because this is the House of Change. And as he approaches it, he heard a warm, pleasant voice, a woman singing inside. 100 summers to a day we have waited here for you. Seeing that you found the way, it must certainly be you. Your hunger and your thirst to still, all is here in readiness. You shall eat and drink your fill, sheltered in our tenderness. Regardless whether good or bad, you've suffered much and traveled far. Take comfort, for the trials you've had will have you just the way you are. And he enters into the house.
Great Lord, I pray, be small again. Be a child and come right in. Don't keep standing at the door. You are welcome here and more. Everything for many a year has been ready for you here. He is drawn in by, we learn her name is Dame Iola. Initially, he runs to her, tempted to yell, "Mama." Think back to part 1. This boy lost his mother. He and his dad were there grieving because we learned early on his mother had died. He enters this home after all these travels and sees someone who looks like his mom beckoning to him to come in as a little child and rest. It is so good.
It is so good. And she is so warm and vibrant and plant-like. She is full of growth and love and just abundance. She has what he thinks is this fancy hat, like one of those fruit hats with all sorts of fruit on it. She tells him to eat the fruit. And the happier she is, the happier he is, the more this fruit just blooms and bursts off her. She is amazing. She is a great, great character. And at first, he's very, very worried about this. He doesn't want to hurt her, like to eat things off her. But she explains, no, this is why I'm here. This makes me happy to give. Eat, enjoy it, partake. And there becomes this theme that he has to be little again. He has to return to a childlikeness in order to be able to truly rest here, in order to truly be fed, in order to truly partake. And this is where the House of Change steps in to help. The House of Change changes. It literally grows and shifts for whatever it needs. And so as he's describing, or she's describing this need for him to be little, a whole nother room pops up, which is giant. It looks like it would be if he was a little kid in a dining room. They even make him a crib. He says at other times this would have been just patronizing. He would have felt ridiculous. But in this setting, him being little in the crib, it was healing for him. And it was good, and he was able to rest, and he's able to eat, and he loves this time with Dame Iola.
She comforts him as a mother would. And it's not been the main point of this story. It's not been something called out this whole time. Like he's got a wound, grieving his mom, losing his mom at, what, is he 10? And yet here, clearly there's been a hole in this boy's heart. And she helps him. She comforts him. And she tells him a story. So good. In this place, Fantastica, it's always been him telling the stories. Here she says, no, I'm going to tell you a story. She tells him his own story. His time in Fantastica, even times before that. So he doesn't even remember all of it. But she knows his story, and she has been waiting, not in general, for him, to love and care for him. She says out of her excess. It says her mother before and her grandmother before had been waiting for a child to love. It is just sheer maternal love and joy and care for this boy who's gone up and down the roller coaster.
He stays here for quite a long time. And in the same way at the beginning that he spoke with the lion and they would have conversations that we can learn from, there are some deep conversations here. And so Bastian brought up a subject. Do you know where I can find the water of life? On the borders of Fantastica. I thought Fantastica had no borders. It has, though, only they're not outside but inside, in the place where the childlike empress gets all her power from, but where she herself cannot go. How am I to find the way there? Asked Bastian. Isn't it too late? There's only one wish that can take you there, your last. This scares him because he knows he doesn't have many wishes left. He worries what he's going to lose when he makes that last wish.
That's fair.
And she tells him, I'll tell you at the proper time. If I told you now, you'd hold on to it. And he says, must I lose everything? And I love this line. Nothing is lost, she said. Everything is transformed. From that day on, something began indeed to change, though Bastian himself noticed nothing at first. The transforming power of the House of Change was taking effect. But like all true transformations, it was as slow and gentle as the growth of a plant. A true transformation. When he entered into Fantastica, he had a sudden change. He was suddenly handsome, suddenly strong. All these transformations were immediate and instant. and therefore not true. Here we are starting to see true transformation.
I like what she's telling him about the house, because it is its own thing. The rooms change all the time. They're never the same. She says, you see, it's called the house of change, not only because it changes itself, but also because it changes anyone who lives in it. And that was very important to the little boy, because up until then, he had always wanted to be someone other than he was, but he didn't want to change. That's a hard place to be in.
Yeah.
To want to be someone other than you are, but not want to change. But this house helps him transform slowly. The love and care of this mother figure helps him transform slowly. And he learns about the water of life.
So this blows my mind, this whole sequence. With surprise and dismay, he recognized that he could not love, and the wish became stronger and stronger. And so he talks with Dame Iola, and she says, now you have found your last wish, she said finally. What you really and truly want is to love. This is profound, because in this home, he is loved, and that's a wonderful thing. That's a wonderful thing. But his last wish, his true desire, is not to be loved, but to love. And you can spend a lifetime thinking about that. I think that's profound. But then it keeps going here. But why can't I, Dame Iola? You won't be able to until you have drunk the water of life, she said, and you can't go back to your own world unless you take some of it back for others. Bastian was bewildered. But what about you, he asked. Haven't you drunk of it? No, said Dame Iola. It's different for me. I only needed someone to whom I could give my excess. But isn't that love? Dame Iola pondered a while, then she says, it was the effect of your wish. Wow. It was the effect of your wish. It may not have actually been love. Can't Fantasticans love? Are they like me? He asked anxiously. She answered, there are some few creatures in Fantastica, so I'm told, who get to drink the water of life, but no one knows who they are. And there is a prophecy, which we seldom speak of, that sometime in the distant future, humans will bring love to Fantastica. Then the two worlds will be one. But what that means, I don't know. All right, let's stop here for a moment. I don't know what Michael Ende meant to mean by this, but the water of life to me is Christ. It's Jesus. It's the well of eternal water that rises up in us. I am the water of life, he said. And we cannot love till we've drunk from it. We can be loved, good thing, because we all need it. But if you want to love, the Lord has to be a part of it. And I think this speaks this so clearly here. But then there's this other concept about, again, the two worlds and how they interact. Love doesn't exist in Fantastica in its own right. They are creatures of story. They will act the way the story goes. And the stories are derived from the wishes of humans. But even in Fantastica, it says there are those who are able to drink of the water and can love. We have seen this. At the end of the first chapter, when Falkor and Atreyu are wounded and hurt, they are taken by the will of the childlike empress to the fountain, surrounded by the serpents, so we know that they can love. And all of a sudden, it makes so much sense why Atreyu could truly be the friend of Bastian throughout all this, why Falkor could be the friend of Atreyu and Bastian. They have drunk of the waters of life. And that is mind-blowing. And so I love all that. But then the prophecy, the idea that the two worlds at some point can come together, that fantasy and the real world can have impact on each other and can be raised to something higher. I love everything about this. This page just made me geek out, and I'm going to need to read this book so many times, I feel, to really get to the bottom of this. But this was my first just like, wow, And obviously, I missed all of this as a kid.
I got there first with his repentance, because he says, ahead of that, he tells Dame Iola, I did everything wrong. I misunderstood everything. Moonchild gave me so much, and all I did with it was harm to myself and harm to Fantastica. And she looks at him and says, no, I don't believe so. You went the way of wishes, and that is never straight. You went the long way around, but that was your way. And do you know why? Because you are one of those who can't go back until they have found the fountain from which springs the water of life. And that's the most secret place in Fantastica. There's no simple way of getting there. But she says, but every way that leads there is the right one. It wasn't the wrong path if it still gets him there. I'm going to cry. Suddenly, Bastian began to cry. He didn't know why. He felt as if a knot in his heart had come open and dissolved into tears. He sobbed and couldn't stop. Dame Iola took him on her lap and stroked him. He buried his face in the flowers on her bosom and wept until he was too tired to weep anymore. He has spent a long time not bothering to think about that inscription, do what you wish, about the loyalty of his friend, or the outcomes of his actions. But here he has an awareness that they had consequences. And yet she gives him that absolution. Can I use that word? Absolution that says it might not have been the straightest path, but it wasn't the wrong one, because he's still seeking. He's still driving towards that wish. And he gets to that point where that's what he wants, is to be able to love. He's lost memories of the people that he did love. Those are gone now. But he wants it. And that wish, where it said earlier, you can't just make a wish happen, not a real one. You know, those shallow ones that come to your mind right away, those are easy. Easy to throw those out. But the real wish, your true will and desire, that takes more work. And not necessarily a straight path.
And we were warned about this by the lion. What do you know about wishes? It is the hardest journey of all. And he had to go on it. And that takes me back to Leaf by Niggle.
Yes,
right?
Yes, absolutely.
It could have been different, but it couldn't have been better. And then here, after he has realized and made his last wish that he wants to love, Dame Iola said that she wasn't going to tell him what he had to give up for that until after he had made it. Well, he's made the wish now. And so she does tell him, you had to forget your father and mother. Now you have nothing left but your name.
Father and mother, he said slowly, but the words had lost all meaning for him. He had forgotten. But she tells him that his last wish will guide you. Don't lose it. He asks, should I go now? Nope, tomorrow at daybreak. You have one more night in the house of change. Now we must go to bed.
And the next day he does go. Then he went out through the door. Winter had come overnight. The snow lay knee-deep, and nothing remained of the flowering rose garden but bare black thorn bushes. Not a breeze stirred. It was bitter cold and very still. Bastian wanted to go back into the house for his mantle, but the doors and windows had vanished. It had closed itself all around. Shivering, he started on his way. So not only has he shed his memories, he's also shedding the last of those easy wish fulfillment things he had when he first entered Fantastica. The mantle that started silver became black is now left behind.
We reached Y, the picture mine. It's fantastic. Fantastic.
These last chapters, so good. The House of Change and the Rose Garden, phenomenal. But the picture mind, yeah. And this starts with a word, again, we're into the Y, and the word is your, the blind miner. We've come across this name before.
Earlier at the library, I read a poem and said, I don't know what that means. The name of your was in that poem at the library. And here he shows up. You're the picture miner. Yor was an old man, but his face was beardless and without a wrinkle. Everything about him, his dress, his face, his hair, was stone gray. As he stood there motionless, he seemed carved from congealed lava. Only his blind eyes were dark, and deep within them there was a glow, as of a small, bright flame. This is a blind miner. And Bastian walks up to his hut and asks, "Can you help me? I'm looking for the fountain the water of life springs from." The miner replied in a whisper, "You haven't lost your way, but speak softly or my pictures will crumble." What pictures? This is a blind old man standing around. He always has soup, and Bastian is welcome to the soup. He doesn't really like it, too salty.
But he has to be quiet. Has to be, or the pictures will crumble. And Bastian asks, what are they? They are forgotten dreams from the human world, Yor explained. Once someone dreams a dream, it can't just drop out of existence. But if the dreamer can't remember it, what becomes of it? It lives on in Fantastica, deep under the earth. There, the forgotten dreams are stored in many layers. The deeper one digs, the closer together they are. All Fantastica rests on a foundation of forgotten dreams.
Such a cool concept.
The idea of mining pictures. He pulls up these pictures. Some are beautiful, some are scary, some are weird, some are funny, some are terrifying, but they're all different. And he asked Bastian, do you recognize any of them? Because this is a place that also has another purpose. And yet, he said, it's here for just such as you, for humans who can't find the way to the water of life. What he needs to do is to find a picture that is one of his forgotten dreams that will then guide him to the water of life. But he looks at all these pictures, and none of them are familiar. He doesn't recognize any of them. And so the miner says, well, I think you should probably go down into the mine yourself, and you should dig for the pictures. And Bastian points out that, well, I haven't got your eyes. I can't see in the dark. Weren't you given a light for your long journey? Yor asked, looking through Bastian. A sparkling stone or something that might help you? Yes, said Bastian sadly, but I used Al-Tashir for something else. That's bad, Yor said again.
He also said it's bad that Bastian didn't recognize any of the pictures. It's going to take more work. And this is quiet work. It says the least sound can crumble these forgotten dreams to dust. So you have to be very clear, or very quiet, and there's very exact tools that are used. And how the man instructs him very silently it's beautiful. And the idea that this blind miner can't see in the day, but in the darkness of the mine he can. Bastian can't, but he learns how to feel, and he does the work to look for pictures. He hauls up these images, and they're all random to him. They don't strike home. But I love the speech from Yor. He says, listen to me, Bastian Balthazar Bux, because Bastian still has his name. He hasn't forgotten that. He says, I'm no great talker. I prefer silence, but I will answer this one question. You are looking for the water of life. You want to be able to love. That's your only hope of getting back to your world. To love, that's easily said. But the water of life will ask you, love whom? Because you can't just love in general. You've forgotten everything but your name. And if you can't answer, it won't let you drink. So you'll just have to find a forgotten dream, a picture that will guide you to the fountain. And to find that picture, you will have to forget the one thing you have left, yourself. And that takes hard, patient work. Remember what I've said, for I shall never say it again. To find someone specific to love, which is the only way he can make it home, he has to let go of all of his self. Complete self-sacrifice. It reminded me of the Sassafranians even, who are born old and they die as infants. He's letting go of all of it, and it's work to get there.
What this reminds me of is a passage from the Brothers Karamazov. So Father Zosima, the monk there's a woman who comes to this monk, this holy man, this recluse, and is talking about how the idea of love really attracts her. She thinks that when she thinks about people in general, that she could do these great acts of Christian love. She could, wash lepers' feet and take care of the homeless. But when she starts to think about like an individual, loving an individual, it all goes away. And it becomes virtually impossible for her to do it. She talks about love in action being such a hard thing. And Zosima responds with just those powerful words. Yes, love in action is a dreadful thing. So high, so powerful, and so true. And spoken here, I think, by Yor in a deeply profound way.
Bastian continues this work, and he gets better at it, but still no image that strikes him. But then, how long this painful work went on, it is hard to say, for such labor cannot be measured in days and months. Be that as it may, one evening he brought to the surface a picture. It moved him so deeply the moment he looked at it that he needed all his self-control to keep from letting out a cry of surprise that would have crumbled the picture to dust. On the fragile sheet of isinglass, which is where these pictures are preserved, which is cool, it says, it was not very large, about the size of a usual book page. He saw a man wearing a white smock and holding a plaster cast in one hand. His posture and the troubled look on his face touched Bastian to the heart. But what stirred him the most was that the man was shut up in a transparent but impenetrable block of ice. Bastian doesn't know it from his memories, but this is his father, and his father is trapped in ice. A longing grew in him for this man, whom he did not know, a surge of feeling that seemed to come from far away. He desires to be with this man and to help him. That is the picture he's been waiting for.
Yor tells him he's done a good job mining. He has earned the respect of the blind miner. I like Bastian again. Bastian is growing. He has grown. And he now takes this picture and very quietly, he goes away. He is now searching for the waters of life. But his former decisions come back to bite him. And I was not expecting this at all.
No.
The schlamoofs, the clown butterflies, have been looking for him. He meant to make them happy. But what he did was he took away their purpose. And they can't be happy. They need a purpose. They need guidance. And so they come to him, and in their wild and raucous way, they demand that he give them purpose. And he's telling them to be quiet. This is a fragile picture. He's going to lose it. They don't care. They decide they're going to kidnap him. And in the noise and the bustle and the consternation, the picture is destroyed. And he's lost everything, even his name now.
Even when he leaves the miner, it says the boy without a name picked the picture out of the snow and plodded out into the snow-covered plain. And these creatures shatter it for him. He's left truly with nothing.
The boy who had no name knelt in the snow. Before him, crumbled into dust, lay the picture. Now all was lost. Now nothing could lead him to the water of life. When he looked up, he saw, blurred by his tears, two forms in the snow. One was large, the other small. He wiped his eyes and took another look. The two forms were Falkor the White Luck Dragon and Atreyu.
Coming to help him, trusting to luck. Fantastic. They rescue him from these creatures who would have torn him apart, and they'd shattered his picture. He is lost now without guidance, and they show up to help him. And we are at Z, the water of life.
In case anybody is wondering, the word zigzagging is how they incorporate Z.
I think that's actually why the Amargants are all Q names, so that he had a way to start the Q chapter.
You're right.
It was strategic.
Going back to this a little bit, I did look up, because this was originally written in German, and I was wondering, how many letters does the German alphabet have? Because I think it has an extra one. It has the Aset letter, and it has some vowels with umlauts on it. But everything I was reading saying, nope, it's 26. It uses the same one. This follows the same pattern. So I think those must not count as separate letters.
Maybe
so
it's just the accent.
It all works out.
The emphasis is different.
I think so.
Yeah. Zigzagging unsteadily, scarcely able to control his feet, the boy who had no name took a few steps toward Atreyu. Then he stopped. Atreyu did nothing but watched him closely. The wound in his chest was no longer bleeding. It says that slowly, Bastian, the boy without a name, removes the Orin, bends down, and lays it in the snow before Atreyu. He lets the amulet go.
In that moment, Arin, the golden gem, became so bright, so radiant that he had to close his eyes as though dazzled by the sun. When he opened them again, he saw that he was in a vaulted building, as large as the vault of the sky. It was built from blocks of golden light, and in the middle of the immeasurable space lay, as big as the ramparts of a town, the two snakes.
I feel like we should just read this whole last chapter. I'm struggling to pick out parts.
All right, I have to read this paragraph. I'll try not to read the whole last chapter. The motionless bodies of the snakes glistened like some unknown metal, the one black as night, the other silvery white. The havoc they could wreak was checked only because they held each other prisoner. If they let each other go, the world would end. That was certain. You know how good this book is? That I'm reading a passage about snakes and loving it. I don't do snakes. But these are incredible. These are world serpents. These are Jormungandr. I mean, these are massive. And if they were to be let loose, they would destroy their respective worlds. But they are bound. And it is that binding of the two together that means they can guard and add something of just incredible beauty and power to this. And what shocking symbolism for these two worlds that we've been interacting with, the fantasy world and the real world, that each one is of incredible power, world-destroying power. But when they're bound together, they can add beauty and richness and protection. But they must be bound together. And so in the first half of this, when the nothing is taking over, us trying to separate our world and not engaging with fantasy, that's world destroying. But the flip side too. So when Bastian says we don't need the real world, that is world destroying. And we see that represented in just the way these mighty serpents are lying. So good.
And it's represented in Bastian. Right? These worlds are going to end in opposite ways if the wrong choices are made along the way. If you replace one with the other, if you replace fantasy with the human world or vice versa, the balance is destroyed and it breaks. World ending. On both sides, they're connected. But it says that in the middle is this beautiful fountain. The snakes surround these waters of life, and the waters are singing. And I love this. Falcor's like, you hear it, right? You understand what it's saying? They're like, no, I don't.
He speaks fluent fountain.
He's like, I understand perfectly. Maybe because I'm a luck dragon. All the languages of joy are related. I love that. I love that. I mean, how many songs in fairyland include songs of joy? And that the luck dragon speaks them all. But I think we all do, right? Something inside of us understands. But here he can translate, thankfully, because Bastian here is lost without Atreyu. Atreyu and Falcor saved him. And the giving up of the amulet allowed him to enter this area. And it's so amazing that he did that even without his memories.
Yeah. And the parallels here just keep jumping out. In the first half, for Atreyu to pass through that third gate at the Southern Oracle, he had to have lost everything and forgotten everything. He couldn't pass through it with any sort of desire or remembrance. And it was Bastian shouting at him, go through the gate, that caused him to turn around and go through it. Here, Bastian has lost everything. He's in that same state. And it is Atreyu and Falcor that allow him, give him the ability to pass through this gate to the water of life.
Mm-hmm. Falcor translates, it says, I am the water of life. Out of myself I grow. The more you drink of me, the fuller I will flow. And it keeps saying, drink, drink, do what you wish. The same inscription that is on the Orin. And it asks their names, which is interesting. Names are key in this. I'm Atreyu. I'm Falcor. The boy without a name was silent. And Atreyu speaks for him and says, he's Bastian Balthazar Bucks. Atreyu names him. I love that. It makes me cry.
It's so good. Can I go back a moment to the drink, do what you wish?
Mm-hmm.
There's a very famous line from St. Augustine. First, love, and then do whatever you want.
Mm.
It's the way he summarizes kind of Christianity and Jesus' message. Because if you first love, whatever you wish is going to be good. Because it will be alignment in this love. And again, if the water of life is our Lord and the love he gives, drink. First love, then do what you wish.
Mm.
Because your wishes will now all be good and all directed by love. We see this too in the silver chair. When King Caspian dies and is resurrected, and he says he wants to do something, and he asks Aslan, is that wrong of me to ask? And Aslan says, no, it is not possible for you to want bad things anymore.
Mm.
Drink, then do what you wish. I love that.
Thank you for bringing up St. Augustine. Like, it's been too long. We haven't mentioned him in way too long. It asks, why doesn't he speak for himself? Atreyu says, he can't. He's forgotten everything. And the fountain's response is, without memory, he cannot come in. The snakes won't let him through. And Atreyu has been listening. He says, I have stored up everything he told us about himself and his world. I vouch for him. By what right is the question? And Atreyu says, I am his friend. And it asks questions about the wound. Bastian hurt Atreyu. Friend or not, he hurt him. He wounded his friend. Atreyu says, we were both right and we were both wrong. But now Bastian has given up Oren of his own free will. And Falcor translates and says, it accepts that. This place is Oren. We are welcome, it says.
At that moment, the enormous black snake's head began to move very slowly. Though without releasing the white snake's tail, the gigantic bodies arched until they formed a gate, one half of which was black and the other white. And the snakes let them pass to the fountain.
As they advanced, one after another of Bastian's Fantastican gifts fell away from him. The strong, handsome, fearless hero became again the small, fat, timid boy. Even his clothing, which had been reduced almost to rags in the mine, vanished and dissolved into nothingness. In the end, he stood naked before the great golden bowl, at the center of which the water of life leapt high into the air like a crystal tree. But then he jumps into the crystal clear water. He splashed and spluttered and let the sparkling rain fall into his mouth. He drank till his thirst was quenched, and joy filled him from head to foot. The joy of living and the joy of being himself. He was newborn. And the best part of it was that he was now the very person he wanted to be. If he had been free to choose, he would have chosen to be no one else. Because now he knew that there were thousands and thousands of forms of joy in the world, but that all were essentially one and the same, namely, the joy of being able to love.
And much later, long after Bastian had returned to his world, in his maturity and even in his old age, this joy never left him entirely. Even in the hardest moments of his life, he preserved a lightheartedness that made him smile, and that comforted others.
He says, now I know who I am. He says it beaming. And he wants to bring his father some of this wonderful water, but how? And Atreyu's like, I don't think you can do that. It's not allowed. But Falcor says, for Bastian, it is. He can do it. And I just love that they're at peace again. He's like, you really are a luck dragon. He's communicating this language of joy. And now he's a part of it. He's living this language of joy. It's so beautifully done.
I really like this next part, though, because they now know where he has to go. He has to go under the white snake's head. But they have questions. The water asks you, Falkor translated, whether you completed all the stories you began in Fantastica. Well, we know the answer to that. No, said Bastian, none of them, really. Falkor listened a while. His face took on a worried look. In that case, it says, the white snake won't let you through. You must go back to Fantastica and finish them all. All the stories? Bastian stammered. Then I'll never be able to go back. Then it's all been for nothing. Falkor listened eagerly. What does it say? Bastian wanted to know. Hush, said Falkor. After a while, he sighed and said, it says there's no help for it unless someone promises to do it in your place. But no one can do that. I can. I will, said Atreyu. Atreyu is so awesome. He's a great character.
Bastian says, I'll never forget this. And that's what Atreyu wants. That's his wish. That's good, Bastian. Then you won't forget Fantastica either. And Bastian asks, how will you finish the stories? And Falkor's like, don't worry. With luck.
He winks.
Of course he does.
Gotta wink. Atreyu and Falkor vanished from Bastian's sight. Now he was alone. He turned towards the white snake's head. It had risen, and the snake's body now formed a great gate, just as the black snake's body had done. Quickly, Bastian cupped his hands, gathered as much of the water of life as he could hold, ran to the gate, and flung himself into the empty darkness behind. Father, he screamed, Father, I am Bastian Balthazar Bucks.
And then my text goes back to italics. We haven't had any italics in this episode. That's how it's written when he's in the human world. He is back. And he doesn't know when he popped out or where, so it takes him a little bit. But he's in the attic. It says he spills the water, but that's nothing. He's on his way to his father. He finds his same clothes. He heads out of the school, but he has been changed. He is Bastian still. But it says he doesn't know how to get out. The school's locked. He has to climb down the outside of this like scaffolding. But I mean, he's been in the desert. He's been with Grogorman. He climbed the jungle vines. This is okay.
And those lines keep coming back. To someone who had climbed the trees of the Perilyn Night Forest, this was no big deal. To someone who had rode the many-colored death, it was not easy to fear. I mean, it's so great because he brings these things back from Fantastica. But what he is looking for is his father. And he finds him. And it's beautiful.
There is a moment where he's afraid that his father won't want to see him. There's still that nagging fear somewhere and still inside him. There's still things to learn. But his father was there and must have seen him coming, for when Bastian rushed up the stairs, his father came running to meet him. He spread out his arms, and Bastian threw himself into them. His father lifted him up and carried him inside. Bastian, my boy, my dear little boy.
Bastian is so worried because he doesn't have the water of life in his hands anymore. He spilled it when he ran through. I mean, his boots were wet, I guess, in the attic. I mean, he's worried about this. But then it was almost dark in the kitchen. His father sat motionless. Bastian stood up and switched on the light, and then he saw something he had never seen before. He saw tears in his father's eyes, and he knew that he had brought him the water of life, after all. This was the man in ice. This was the man trapped after the death of his wife, who couldn't communicate with his son, who couldn't speak to him. And now he's weeping, and the two can talk. The water of life has been brought back to their relationship.
Bastian tells him the whole story. It takes a long time, but it's a good story. And they decide to have a holiday. And so they take the next day off. His dad takes the day off work. Bastian takes the day off school. But Bastian knows he has to go tell the bookseller he stole his book. The whole start to this was that he stole a book and he was so afraid. He knew he could never go home again. He couldn't tell that man he'd stolen a book. But here he has the conviction, no, that I need to do right away. And his father notices the difference in him. This is not a behavior that his timid little boy would have taken before.
No, it says Bastian's father took his hand. If you like, he said, I'll attend to that for you. The dad is willing to do it so that Bastian doesn't even have to. No, said Bastian. It's my responsibility. I want to do it myself, and I think I should do it right away. He stood up and put on his coat. His father said nothing, but the look on his face was one of surprise and respect. Such behavior in Bastian was something new. The encounter with Coriander is great.
Again, I believe the letters are chosen specifically. So Coriander has the triple C name. Bastian's the triple B name. I wonder if there's going to be a sequel with a triple A name. But he tells him, I stole your book. And the man's like, no, I've never seen that book. But it comes out that he has been to Fantastica. Apparently, there's a lot of different books, a lot of different ways to get there.
This is so Narnia and Professor Kirk and
Absolutely.
coming back. Coriander asks him if he'll come around and talk with him from time to time because he wants to hear the stories. But Coriander also says that he thinks he can get back. He says there are other ways of getting to Fantastica. You'll find out. Do you think so? Bastian asked hopefully. But then I'd have to meet Moonchild again, and no one can meet her more than once. Mr. Coriander leaned forward and lowered his voice. Let an old Fantastica hand tell you something, my boy. This is a secret that no one in Fantastica can know. When you think it over, you'll see why. You can't visit Moonchild a second time, and that's true. But if you can give her a new name, you'll see her again. And however often you manage to do that, it will be the first and only time. So let me talk about the childlike Empress briefly. I've been thinking a lot about this character. I think she is inspiration, beginnings, and creativity. That's what I think she is. Because, again, she accepts all things, good, bad. You can't get to her out of your own will. It's a gift that you even approach her or get to her. Without her, Fantastica dies. She is the opposite of the old man of the Wandering Mountain. He is ending. He is codification. He is the writing down. She is genesis, generation, renewal. I think she is inspiration and creativity.
I was thinking along the same lines, but I have a different word. Mine was possibility. Just anything you can imagine, anything you could wish. Doesn't mean it's good or bad. Both things are possible, and much is up to the wisher in terms of what is created. But then that flowering, that extension of it, where it keeps building on top of itself, things outside Bastian's wishes came up. That is just possibility stacking on top of itself. I think the old man is very interesting, and I think I said last time, I think of it, the chronicler, right? The writer down of things. And once they're written, it's set for that story, right? It becomes set in that story. So other stories from other times would have to be made for there to be more to chronicle. I wonder about Dame Iola. How did she know the story? She knew his story. From the point of Moonchild needing a new name, the childlike Empress needing a new name, she knew Bastian's story, personally.
I thought that came from his wish. His wish was to be loved as he was. And that story is as he was right there. So I saw that as, again, an overflow of that excess that was directly related to his wish.
That's good. I like that. I feel like there's so much more I meant to say.
I feel the same way. But I feel the same way reading this time as I do about reading Fantastes and so many of these other, or Lilith, right? Where I know there's something there. And not just one thing, but multiple things. And this time through, I picked out a few of the levels, and I'm really curious what I'm going to pick out the next time I read through it. And I'm even more interested in what other people pick out of it, because I'll only see it through my own will and wishes, right? I'll only see it through my own lenses. And this one, I think, lends itself to so many different lenses and ways of looking at it.
Yeah. Yeah, but that the movie stops where it's just the inroad to fantasy as like that was what's needed, that it completes that loop and says, no, that can be taken way too far as well. Both are needed. We need fantasy to enrich our world here. And the origin of story and wonder and imagination is needed to build that tree of stories, and that they go together and they enrich both. I think it's so beautiful. I can't think of another story that depicts that quite that well. We said last time on fairy stories, he's talking about that in essay form. This shows you both sides of it, and that they're both needed and complementary, but destructive when they're taken out of balance. It's wonderful. I am so impressed.
I agree. And I would love, this was written after Tolkien died. I would love to hear what he thought about this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I would be really interested. Yeah, that's just a fun thing to think about.
I feel like he'd want a luck dragon, obviously.
Oh, we all do. We all do.
I cannot be clear enough about that. I absolutely do. Always have, still do. So at the end, Mr. Coriander tells him, Bastian Balthasar Bucks, if I'm not mistaken, you will show many others the way to Fantastica, and they will bring us the water of life. Mr. Coriander was not mistaken. But that's another story, and shall be told another time.
And with that, we'll turn the page, and we hope you join us for the next chapter.